Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel, Reading with the Crew.
Thank you so much there, Jack61, and apologies for everyone for the wait, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be worth it. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dr. Silkman. I'm from the Foul Play team. I'm from Adelaide, South Australia, and welcome, guys, and welcome everyone on the panel. Today we have a real special treat for you, as I'll introduce in a minute. And we've been working behind the scenes, hard behind the scenes. And today we have a real special podcast for you. We will be continuing the Reading with the Crew series, but with a twist. We have a new researcher who has joined us by the name of Juke, and I can call him either Juke or DJ, and I'll introduce him to you guys in a minute. And he's been very active in our Discord channel. He's a top guy, and the level of research that he does is just fantastic, and it really complements the ethos of the Foul Play team. And we welcome him, and we'll introduce him in a second. But first of all, I'd like to quickly introduce our STEAM panel that's joining us today. First off, we have Neverly. Neverly, welcome. How are you coming along?
Hello, Dr. Silkman. I'm doing great. Hello, fellow panel members and everybody in the chat. I'm really excited to be here. As Dr. Silkman would say, this is a ripper of a podcast.
A ripper.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
It's
Neverly, for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's garbage, right? Thank you so much, Neverly. And next we have Andy B. Andy B, welcome.
Thank you very much, Doc, and a good evening to everyone. It's another fine rainy evening here in the grim up north UK, and I'm looking forward to this podcast to great presentations, I hope. So hello to the panel and everyone in chat, and to Juke himself. Thank you very much.
Awesome. And next we have Jack61. Jack61, welcome. And thank you so much for getting the show on the road.
Hey, thanks, Doc, and I apologize to everyone. There was
Not at all.
I'd warned everyone that there was I knew there was an update coming to our streaming software, and everything seems to be fine except for one photo program that I use, and it just says now it's just not even going to recognize it. So I had to do some other maneuvering, and I apologize for being late. But hey, everyone on the panel, everyone in the live chat, sorry for the wait. But let's get this show on the road.
Fantastic. Thank you so much there, Jack61. And next we have I don't recall. How are you coming along?
I'm coming along well. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Reading with the Crew.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I don't recall. And next we have Susan. Susan, welcome. How are you coming along?
Thank you, Doc. I'm doing great. Just got home an hour ago from Oklahoma City. Met with Daniel Holtzclaw's parents last night. It was just fantastic. Got to drive around and see the crime scenes, supposed crime scenes, and it was a very interesting trip. It was totally worth it. So I'm ready to go, though, on this podcast. I'm excited. So let's get the show on the road.
Awesome. And just a quick question. Can everyone who's in chat see the YouTube stream? And can they hear us? Is everything good? We're all on the up and up?
I can hear it and see it on my iPad, Doc. I'm not having any problems. Yeah.
Grammy says yep. Jazz says yes. Yep. Awesome. And welcome, Duke. Glad to have you here.
Fantastic. And next we have Just Rhonda. Just Rhonda, welcome. How are you coming along?
Thank you, Dr. Silkman. I'm doing fantastic. I'm still in Oklahoma City, and that's going to be a whole other show in a few weeks, but it has been fabulous and amazing. And I have to say, meeting Susan in person for the first time and getting those hugs and support has been amazing. I love her. I loved her before I met her. Now I love her even more. So grateful to be able to meet you, Susan.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much there, Just Rhonda. And last but not least, we have our special guest, DJ. And DJ, welcome to the Foul Play team and our panel. DJ, would you like to spend a couple of minutes talking about who you are and how you got introduced into this case? Far away. Welcome.
Well, wow, thank you, Doc, and yeah, really to everyone on the panel for having me. To be honest, it's pretty surreal, you know. And I was telling everyone on the panel shortly before we came onto this live here that I've always had a passion for this case. I, like everyone else, started by watching the series on Netflix several years ago. But it was about a year ago that I stumbled upon Foul Play, and really from that point on, that has taken my passion for justice in this case to a whole new level. As some others have said, I'm pretty much addicted at this point.
No.
But what I care about and really aligns well with what Foul Play does, and it's why I've been so connected to everything that you guys are doing. You know, I care about the truth. I have my opinions based on the things, information that we've been provided. But that being said, I'd like my opinions to be supported by as many facts as I can possibly get. And so in a case like this, where I believe intentionally so, they've given us decades worth of research to cover. You know, all you can do is spend a lot of time before you can start to really gain some true insight as to how unbelievable this case truly is. And so I'm honored to be here with you guys, and I'm really excited to kind of share some of the findings that I'm coming across. Give you a little insight of myself. As I mentioned before, I'm a little too close to Manitowoc, but far enough away, about 4 hours west in the great state of Minnesota, where my wife and I live. And yeah, I think more than anything, I'm just excited to be here, privileged to be able to present a little of my findings with you guys. And I hope that throughout this podcast and moving forward, I just encourage everyone to feel free to ask me as many questions. I'm sure I'll, you know, in covering what I'm going to cover, there'll be hundreds of questions that people might have, and whatever insight that I can provide to people, I will do my best to do so. And that's really the purpose for me here, is just to share what I'm finding, because Doc summed it up perfectly in last week's episode. No single person can solve this case alone. It's going to take a group effort, and I'm happy to be a part of that group.
Fantastic. Well, look, welcome, and we hope you become a regular member here on the panel. I'm sure everyone here will welcome you with open arms. I've had a look a lot at Jack 61.
Yeah. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah. Yep. All good. All
okay.
good.
Okay. It's being weird on my end, but as long as y'all can hear me.
Yep. I think everyone in chat can hear you as well, which is awesome. I was just saying that we welcome DJ to the Foul Play team, and we hope to see him as a regular member here on the panel. Most of us, or all of us, have been following your research and what you have been doing. And what I find really impressive is that you share the same ethos that we do. You're not scared to deep dive, and you support your hypotheses with evidence and also with testimony, which is precisely what we do as well. And you're not scared to deep dive into specific topics. And what's so impressive, like you said, and everyone in chat will attest to, that all it needs is the right people together to look at certain things and come up with things that no one has seen before. And today, I'll tell you what, we have a couple of rippers for you. It has really completely changed the way I look at this case. And it's just absolutely phenomenal. Look, DJ, welcome to the Foul Play team. We're also very honored to have you here as well. And we look forward to hopefully years of complementary being together and lots of discussion and podcasts. Awesome. Thank you so much. Susan, are you able to say who's in chat, who's joined us in chat? And again, guys, welcome so much. And Jack61, are we able to have a look at the very first slide, which is the title slide? Thank you. Thank you, Susan.
You bet. Okay, we have case 10 is in chat. JD is with us. Jazznaz Gaming. Hello, Jazznaz. Dark Side of the Moon. Hi, sweetheart. Sverre Hegelund is with us again. And let's see, Katie did it. Hi, Katie. I just left her about a couple hours ago. Angie
Welcome.
Dickinson is with us. Nan's Life 7. Wooden Pallet Pete Moss. For you, Alice.
Welcome.
Iced Coffee is here. Hi, Iced Coffee. Let's see. Rhonda SD. Hello, Rhonda. Just Rhonda is in chat. And Duke is in chat. Let's see. Neverly's in chat. Gloria is with us. Anthony D.
Cherie.
Hi, Anthony.
We've got Cherie as well. Pontillo.
Cherie. Oh, Sherry Pontillo. Yeah, Pontillo. John Wayne is here. Graham Moss is with us. Paul Ward. Hello, Paul. Alice. We miss you, Alice. So nice to see you. Kelly McAlien is here. The aliens have landed.
Hey, the aliens have, yes.
Grammy's here. Hi, Grammy. Love your name. T1. Hey, T1. Nice to see you. Nevena Keller is here with us. Going through the list here.
Have we got Grammy, who's just joined us too?
We got Grammy. We've got Lil Barb is with us. Jay Jackson's in chat as well. Justine J is here. I think I caught everybody. If I missed you, send me a note and I'll call you out. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Thank you so much there, Susan. And again, guys, the only thing that we ask is please be respectful for one another. Try and keep your discussions on topic. And if you have a question, put a Q and we'll try and answer your question in situ on the show. And that'll be awesome. We'll try our very, very best to answer all your questions. Well, look, guys, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Reading with the Crew. Now, as you know, Neverly and I had started this adventure many, many months ago. And what we've been doing, for those who are new to the case, we have been reading selective chapters from John Ferak's book, The Wrecking Crew. And we all believe that it's an excellent book. It's an excellent research book to sink your teeth into this case. And as Juke pointed out, this case is massive. The Stephen Avery, Brendan Dassey cases are massive. And it does take many, many years of hard work and research and dedication just to get a grip on what took place that horrible, horrible day. And guys, as a team, we're doing this for the memory of Teresa Horbach, who tragically lost her life, very likely on October the 31st, 2005. And we do it for her memory, her family, of course, and also to seek justice, to find out the truth, no matter where it lies. All of us here on the Foul Play team believe that neither Stephen nor Brendan had received fair trials, and it's very, very likely that Stephen Avery got set up again. And through the hard work and dedication of the team, and also new researchers who've come onto the scene like Juke, we're trying to expose, and I believe we have exposed a lot of interesting shenanigans done by the state. And piece by piece, we're going to get to the truth, no matter where it lies. Well, look, guys, if you've been following the podcast series, we've been reading chapter 14, Canine Noses. And I'll tell you what, we're on part 18. Part 18. And I thought that Neverly and I had thought, right, Neverly, that this was only going to take 2 weeks to do this chapter, 2
Yes.
podcasts. And now 18 podcasts later, we're still only about 3/4 of the way through.
I don't even
And
remember the book, Dr. Silkman, anymore.
Yeah, correct. And that's because we have really, really deep dive. And through the panel and also all your excellent questions in chat, it has opened up our minds, and we've gone to areas we have never thought we were going to go to. And I'll tell you what, we have uncovered some amazing things. And for me, one of the biggest game changers was looking at where Sergeant Jason Jost was and what he did. And later, Juke will present his material, which get ready to get ready to drop your jaws. Jack 61.
Yeah, and not only that, but I think that everyone that's, and I know, of course, I've been here and I've seen all the slides. I mean, and there's, just so people know, um, just because of the conversation and discussion for all of these in this chapter, we've not been able to present really all the slides that Doc had prepared. And I just got to say that he has worked and Neverly too, they worked their ass off. It's crazy. Anyway, my point is that how much we've actually learned about the activity and just how many dogs were on that property during that, whatever, 8 days. It's crazy. It's that, and then if you turn around and look at what tiny bit of reporting is actually given to us so far. Now, I'm going to tell you, I have requested everything. I've requested everything.
Fantastic.
What I'll get,
Fantastic.
I don't know, but I'm telling you, this has been a true eye-opener for me. And I've been following this case since 2 days after the series aired. Crazy. And thank you.
Correct.
And thanks to all of
Correct.
you. Thank you.
No, not at all. Thank you so much, Jack 61. We're very lucky here to have a whole panel of very dedicated and passionate researchers, and it's just been awesome. Well, guys, like I said, we'll be continuing this particular chapter, Canine Noses. I'm going to do a short, truncated presentation today, and then we've got Juke coming on. And the material that Juke has uncovered is even part of my presentation today, and it just fits in so beautifully. And again, we're so fortunate to have Juke on a panel and to present his material. Well, look, guys, I'm not going to waste any more time here. If you like what we do, please subscribe, like, put your DNA on the thumbs up button, and share our podcast. The more people that can get to hear and see our work, the better. And hit the notification bell, guys, so you don't miss out on special podcasts and things like that. Well, today, like I said, we have a very special treat. And I reckon we have made a few major breakthroughs in this case. Again, through the hard work of the team and also through some brilliant observations by Juke. Is just going to blow your mind. I still haven't recovered. I've been on a high for about a week, but let's start the show. So, guys, today what we're going to be looking at, what we're going to be focusing on, is the so-called battle for the burn pit. Right now, Kratz spend a lot of time during the trial or trials talking about the burn pit, Stephen Avery's burn pit. That was the place where Teresa Halbach was cremated. And one of the biggest issues for the state was, why did it take so long for the investigators to find the cremains in the burn pit? And I tell you what, we're going to deep dive and you are going to be shocked, right? Jack 61, are we able to have a look at the very first slide of the series? I think it's A1A. Do you have that one? So we're going to look at the so-called battle for the burn pit. And to my surprise, and I don't know if you guys actually knew this, but Kacharsky, yep, the aliens man, he wanted to shoot Bear. Believe it or not. I didn't even realize this till I went over the testimony again. He wanted to shoot Bear. But due to an incredible, and I mean incredible observation by Juke, I think, guys, we can finally exonerate Bear, right? We've presented evidence, video evidence, that Bear was indeed a very passive, very calm dog. But what you're about to see is going to blow your minds. Trust me. So, guys, here's the very first slide, the battle for the burn pit. And like I said, this was an embarrassment for the state. The state, the investigators had up to 200 officers around the Avery salvage yard every day. And I'll tell you what, no one saw any cremains, no one smelled anything nefarious from November the 5th, November the 6th, November the 7th. And it was only on November the 8th did Jost suddenly find a bone fragment in the grass. And then everything, all hell broke loose. So the question we need to ask is, if we look at Bear, is Bear a friend or is he a foe? And as you can see, right in the middle is the burn pit, right? And this is very, very important because that's the focus of the entire investigation, okay? Because we're talking about cremains being found in the burn pit. And I'll tell you what, when Juke presents his material, you're going to be shocked again. So Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide, please? So we have a dilemma. We really have to know, we have to work out, was Bear really vicious or was he very passive and calm? Now, I was actually quite shocked. I didn't realize that both Remiker and Kacharsky on November the 6th, they wanted to attempt to search or examine the burn pit. I had no idea about this. And I'll tell you what, now we can uncover, I think, the genesis of where the shenanigans came from. It came from Kacharsky and Kratz in regards to Bear, right? Now, the amazing thing is this. On November the 5th, Kacharsky was with a dog handler on the Avery salvage yard, right? Searching the Avery salvage yard with a cadaver dog, right? So that's Kacharsky. He was with cadaver dog searching the Avery salvage yard. Now, he stated that when he was very close to Stephen Avery's garage, and in actual fact, they searched Stephen Avery's garage, both inside and outside, he had heard Bear. So Kacharsky knew that Bear was there. However, no one did anything to remove Bear at all, right? Now, Juke, are you there? Are you able to tell us, what do you know about Kacharsky? Did he have a special, did he have some special training? What was he actually doing? What did he do?
Well, I love this because it comes out in one of these moments, I feel like, in the trial where, as you know, many of the people that went up admitted, Kratz did his job and he coached his witnesses. And I feel like this is one of those moments where they went off script a little. And we get this little glimpse and this little tidbit that helps us a lot. But what Kacharsky says after he explains that he was out with the dogs on the 5th, he goes a step further and he says to them, well, I am a dog handler.
Did everyone hear that? Did everyone hear that, guys? Kucharski is a
Yeah.
dog handler.
Couldn't handle bear though, huh?
No, come
Correct.
on. He was vicious, mean dog. God almighty.
Correct. Guys, that's the first microphone drop. The guy is a dog handler. Now, Kucharski was with a cadaver dog searching the Avery salvage yard, and he was aware that bear was present. He did nothing to remove bear. Now, this is very, very important. Now, he's a big guy. Kucharski's a big guy, and he's a dog handler himself. Now, do you see that burn pit? This is a very important point, okay? Now, I checked the weather for Manitowoc from November the 6th to November the 11th, right when the investigators were there, and also on November the 5th. From the 6th to the 11th, it did not rain in Manitowoc. It did not rain. Now, why is that important? Because, guys, do you see the burn pit as it is? That's exactly how it would have been on the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th. No rain would have disturbed the ash in the burn pit. So, guys, what you are seeing, and this is crucial, this photograph exculpates Stephen and Brendan. And I'll tell you why. Because Trooper Reese took many photographs of the burn pit. You are seeing an in situ picture of the burn pit. It wasn't disturbed by rain. It didn't rain at all. And one of the things, and I'm sure Juke will talk about it, was that Sturtevant and others had described a pile of bones in that burn pit, in the middle of the burn pit. And we have spoken at length. There's one problem. There's no pile of bones in the burn pit. So these bones or cremains couldn't have come up from the bottom to the top. It never rained. So what you are seeing there, what's in front of Bear, that's it. There's no pile of bones. And I've looked, and Juke and everybody else on the panel has looked at all the pictures hundreds of times. We cannot see any piles of bones anywhere, nor bone fragments in the grass. Something happened between November the 6th and November the 8th. And the answer is, what happened at Jack 61 between November 6th and November 8th? What happened, guys?
Cuss Road.
Cuss Road. And also we spent a lot of time talking about Sergeant Jason Jost, right? And this is very, very interesting. And it also is very important for Duke's presentation coming up. So the important thing here, guys, is that it did not rain between November the 6th to November the 11th. Now, what is remarkable is that on November the 6th, as Duke stated, in court, he goes, yeah, both myself and Remika, we wanted to search the burn pit. We attempted to search the burn pit, but because of Bear, they couldn't search the burn pit. And in actual fact, Kucharski pulls out his gun on Bear, pulls out his weapon on Bear. If this is in actual fact the truth, or it could be all made up, but he was going to shoot Bear. Now, what's amazing is that none of this, none, is in any CASO or in any MTSO report. None of it. It only, as Duke stated, only occurred in the Stephen Avery trial. So Jack 61, are we able to have a look at the next slide, please? So what we're going to do is we're going to read out the appropriate trial transcripts here. It's not that long. Susan, are you able to read the question part? Do you see the slide A2?
Yes, Doc, I can.
So are you able to read the question, which is Kratz, of course. And Neverly, do you see the slide A2?
I do.
Yep. Are you able to read the answer?
Sure.
And that's Kacharsky. Okay. Pay close attention, guys. Let's go for it.
All right. Thank you. I think you left off with the burn barrels. After that was completed, where did you guys go?
I don't remember if it was after or before. We did a search around the garage area, and sometime in there, we attempted to search an area behind the garage. Myself and Deputy Investigator Remiker attempted to search a burn pit, what was later described as, but we were unable to because there was a dog there.
A dog where?
There was a dog tied up behind the garage, and its chain was long enough to get to us if we were trying to search that area.
And where was this area?
This was behind the garage, behind Stephen Avery's garage.
I will orient the jury here. I will show you what's been received as exhibit number 111. It's a computer animated representation of that area. Do you recognize that?
Yes,
What is it that we're looking at?
that's the rear of the garage that was searched, and that's the burn pit area that Detective Remiker and myself attempted to search.
I think
It's
where are we,
the
Jack?
next one is could you show the jurors?
Oh,
Jack
sorry.
needs
Hold,
to lift that up a bit. Yeah.
Hold on. I think I skipped a section. My apologies. Just a second.
Yep, you have to go back to A3 and just lift it up a little bit. Yep, just lift it up a little bit. That's it. And it's could you show the jurors?
I'm not saying that.
I mean, neither.
Jack needs
There's
to
like
lift
a
it up.
page. Oh,
Next page, Jack.
Yeah, A3 and lift it up a bit.
You know what? I think I've clipped that.
It's A3. A3.
Yeah, I think
I'm on A3, but there's nothing there.
Yeah, I think it's clipped. I've clipped it off, or it was clipped off. Let me check here. I may have clipped it when I actually did the slides. Just like it, just take a second.
No hassles.
While we were waiting, T1 said a little bit earlier on, he said, what? All the law enforcement officers had COVID, zero smell? All joking aside, exactly. All 200 people on salvage yard, and nobody ever said anything about the smell. Any kind of smell. Nothing.
There's not one person.
That's like a huge red flag. Huge.
It's
as somebody would say.
Slide A3, Doc. Is that right?
Slide A3. Yep. So it just needs to be lifted up a little bit, Jack 61, if you've got it. Otherwise, I can read out the part that's missing.
I can just do it this way. This will just be the quickest and easiest way to finish the page, and then we can get back to this second.
No hassle. No hassles at all. Correct. And even Trooper Reese, who was right next to the burn pit, never mentioned any smell. Duke, do you have
nobody?
Yeah, Doc, I just wanted to say one thing about the rain, because just to make sure we're 100% accurate here. So on the morning of the 6th, there was still just a little bit of rain. There's one picture in particular where you see it's actually Kucharski, Remiker, and I believe one other officer that are loading the barrels, the Yonda burn barrels, onto the truck.
Yes.
and it's morning where there was rain that started to turn into snow. That was, along with you, I checked the weather, about 0.1 of an inch. So
Yes.
nothing really, but I just wanted to put that out there. So if people see that image and say, oh, they said it wasn't raining on the 6th, well, it was very briefly nasty in the morning with bright sunshine in the afternoon.
Yes. Thank you so much there, Duke. Jack 61.
Yeah, it's up now. I pulled it up on the just in the browser, so they
No
can
hassles.
continue to read, and then I'll switch back.
No hassles. So do we start with line number 17? Start with number 17, Susan.
21.
Yep. Okay,
21.
21.
Could you show the jurors where you walked and how it was that you were unable to get to that area?
Well, this was the area that we were attempting to search, and this is a dog house here behind the garage. And the dog pretty much had free reign of this area. The dog was not letting us into that area.
I'm not seeing the rest of it.
Jack has to put up slide A4.
A4.
Okay, now we're
A4.
going to switch back, and we're going to go to. You'll see
Yep.
it, Susan.
No, no hassles. That's the one.
All right. Why not? What was the dog acting like?
You're killing me. Oh my God. Okay. Basically, the dog was vicious. It came at us, barked. I actually stood by with my weapon drawn as Detective Remiker attempted to get into there.
Oh my. To search that area with that behavior of that dog, what were your options at that point?
We, after our attempts, we pretty much we had to get the dog out there some way if we were going to search it. There was no way to search it with that dog there.
So
After all, these are aliens.
So you chose not to search it.
Correct.
Did you destroy? Where'd that go? Did you destroy the doing or kill the dog? What the hell's that mean?
I think it was meant to be dog. Destroy the dog or kill the dog.
Did you destroy the dog or kill the dog?
It's clipped again.
It's clipped. You know what? Give me just 1 second. I'm going to fix this once and for all.
A5, Jack.
Yeah.
No, it's still on the bottom of A4.
It's clipped at the bottom. I'm going to fix
Line
this.
18 and on, it's clipped.
Yeah, I'm going to fix this, and we won't have to deal with it anymore. Just a second.
Well, Jack, can I ask a question from the chat?
Yes.
Jack is fixing that. Anthony Hill says, what color is the body residue or substance left post-cremation?
Post-cremation, ash.
Yeah, he's talking about body residue. Basically, you have what is often regarded as a black goo, and that's due to your body fat, your tissue, your bowels, bacteria, skin. So basically, black goo, and the bones should remain behind, as well as a bit of ash. So there should be what is known as pyrolysis material as a result of the cremation event. And normally you would have a black goo and a very distinctive odor. Susan.
Does the goo stink? Katie didn't ask.
It would definitely smell because remember...
It would get in your pores, in your hair, in your clothing.
Correct. Juke, do you have a comment?
No chance that the cadaver dogs would be interested in that smell, would they?
Well, the interesting thing is that, and then the embarrassing thing is, they try to reproduce that smell of death using specific chemicals, and also they use body parts. They go to the morgue, they try and get a corpse because they have to train the dogs to detect the smell of death. When you have that pyrolysis material after a human being has been cremated, it's going to be very, very intense. And all first responders that have ever gone to a crash or attended a fire all mention a very, very distinct, pungent odor as a result of a human being being cremated. It's a very, very distinctive smell. Just Rhonda, do you have a comment?
Yeah, well, just to follow up from Anthony Hills, does the goo stain bone?
Does the goo stain bone?
That I don't know. But remember, what is bizarre here is that the bones that we see in the box are relatively clean.
Clean.
Now, I don't know whether they cleaned the cremains prior to giving them to Bennett, but when Eisenberg opened up the box, she didn't smell any accelerant. She didn't see the presence of any rubber or tires, and she didn't smell anything coming from the bones, which is very, very unusual. And you see, the problem is all of these questions could have been solved if they'd done trace analysis of the bones, examine them, scrape them, have a look at them under a microscope, determine what is there. None of that was done. Susan.
Doc, I'd
Yes.
just like to read out Justine J., who we have
Yes, please.
learned actually works in a crematorium,
Yes.
an official crematorium. She says it all gets burnt off. Sometimes you can get a fatty substance, a bit like oil.
Yes.
No staining of bone, she says. Cremated bones don't smell.
Okay.
But that's a professional crematorium. I don't know that it would be the same in a burn pit, but
Yeah,
that's
in
good
the
to know.
professional
it is
crematorium, I
good to
just
know.
read about this, and maybe Justine J can actually confirm this, that in a professional crematorium, they have these vents, like industrial
Correct.
proper vents, to take all the smell away. Otherwise, people, the technicians, would not be able to work there and to smell those, first of all, fumes, those plumes of burning of the tissue of the bones. That's very, actually, it's carcinogenic. I know that because of that, we have that issue during the surgeries when they use cauterizing instruments to cut skin and stuff. It smells like, I hate to be gross, but like a barbecue, you know what I mean? But
Yes.
those are the dangerous plumes. So in a crematorium that does nothing but cremate bodies, they have these industrial kind of fans to take all of that smell away. So the
It's
techs don't,
aspirated off.
yes, they
Yep.
don't ever smell a thing. So I could see, and this is just me speculating, the difference between a proper cremation of a body and a makeshift
Open
one.
open
Yeah,
pit.
in an open flame.
Yeah.
Because I think that that would be actually, it would stay everywhere. Plus, I've been puzzled from day one how clean, as you said, Dr. Silkman, to use that term, those bones are. It's just unbelievable. It's almost as if it was a professional job.
Well, the thing is that remember, according to the state, the Teresa Horbach was co-burned with tires and other things like cupboards, pieces of wood,
Debris,
so
yeah.
Foam,
other
the
other
foam from the
debris, and
seat.
the
Yeah.
foam on the seat, and don't forget you've got dirt on the
Insulation.
bottom. Correct. So in a professional crematorium, you've just got the body, possibly within a coffin as well, but it's a relatively clean environment. An open pit is anything but. Jackson, but thank you so much, Justine. Thank you so much for that information. Jack 61.
Yeah, maybe Justine can comment about this, what I'm fixing to say, but I can tell you that when I worked in the printing industry, all of the, I mean, these presses, it's all, well, most of it, what I worked around back then, it was all solvent-based ink. And the OSHA and, whatever, because if your presses produce over a certain amount of tonnage or exhaust that is, well, shall we say, not good, you were forced to buy another secondary unit that sat outside called an oxidizer. And these oxidizers, they can be relatively small to, depending on how many presses you have feeding to it, to pretty damn large, or you may even have to have a second oxidizer. And what happens is all of your venting from your printing presses and other processes is vented through this oxidizer that runs. Ours ran 15 to 1700 degrees, depending on how many presses were running. And these fumes were passed through this oxidizer and reburnt. So what was exhausted, it may have had a little bit of smell, but it was virtually gone. So I'm wondering if crematoriums, especially the large ones, would have something like this oxidizer on the outside to burn these, because I think that we can all agree, and I've talked to many people. The internal organs, I'm not trying to be gross, of a human body, when it's burnt, it's going to smell like hell.
Plus, you've got the blood.
Yep.
You've got blood, you've got the intestines, you've got feces, you've got urine, and you've got the hair as well.
Yep.
So you if you've ever singed your hair, you know how much of a distinctive smell that is. But it would be interesting if Justine J could comment on where you think Teresa Halbach was cremated. Open pit, burn barrel, crematorium. I'll be really great to get some feedback from you, Justine. Thank you so much. Susan, do you have a comment?
She also says, Justine says, we have filtration, but sometimes the cremation gets too hot and all the smoke will come out the chimney. Bodies smell like burning rubber for a short while, then more barbecue-ish. We have extremely good filtration, including filtration for mercury, etc., etc.
Wow. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Justine. All right, guys, shall we continue our reading? I think we're on line 18. 18?
Yes.
17. Yeah. Susan, do you want to ask the
17?
question again?
Okay. Sure.
17. We'll start at 17.
So, did you destroy, excuse me, did you destroy the dog or kill the dog?
No, we didn't want to do that.
Where'd you go then?
I was sent to tag the burn barrels. And then after the burn barrels, we were sent to search Barbianda's house.
All right. All right. So sorry, Jack 61.
Now we know why the burn barrels were such a fucking disaster and a clusterfuck. Oh my God. Kacharski was in charge of that? Oh, dear God.
Correct. Juke, do you have a comment?
Can you elaborate on when he says we? He says we, and he says I was sent to Tagberg, but it was a we effort, right? Who's the we that he's talking about? Who was he with that day?
He doesn't want you to know.
Remiker?
He was allegedly with Remiker, Colburn, and Lenk, Colburn, Remiker, and himself. I'm not sure whether it was anybody else. Duke, do you know?
It was Remiker, Colburn, and Lenk all helped load those burn barrels into that trailer. Yep.
That's my dream team. That's
I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
The scream team. Well, the important point is this, right? This is where I reckon a lot of the narrative about the vicious dog came from, right? Because the commentary that Remiker and him wanted to search the burn pit, you don't see that anywhere else, right? It's not in a CASO report. It's not in an MTSO report. I don't even think Remiker mentions about the fact that they wanted to search the burn pit as well. It's almost like a throwaway comment, right? So, in effect, what Kacharski is saying is that they couldn't search or go into the burn pit area because of the vicious nature of bear. Is that the impression you get?
Yeah, he drew the gun.
Yep, he drew. In fact, according to Kaczarski, he even drew out his revolver. And mind you, Kaczarski, as Juke pointed out, is a dog handler himself. Susan, do you have a comment?
Well, it's interesting. He says he had his weapon drawn as Detective Remaker attempted to get in there. But he says after our attempts, he doesn't say if he actually got in there or not.
No, no. But essentially, and Duke can back me up, essentially what Remaker, Kaczarski and others did was they went inside Stephen Avery's garage, right, taking photographs, collecting evidence, etc., etc. They also went around Stephen Avery's garage. Well, Bear's pretty close to the garage, right? So according to Kaczarski, Bear was very vicious, and as a consequence, they couldn't search the burn pit, right? Now,
Yeah,
does
I
anyone?
guess I do say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Duke,
So
do you have any comments?
I just wanted, to your point, I mean, they were searching Steven's garage, and this is, his story that afterwards they go around to search the backside and then want to search the pit. I just don't want it to get lost on everyone when Kaczarski says in his testimony here, after our attempts, we pretty much seen we had to get get the dog out of there some way if we were going to search it. He's acknowledging that, at least in this story, on the 6th, their mindset was, we have to get the dog out of here.
Correct.
And they didn't do it till the 9th.
The 9th. They removed Bear on the 9th. But it's gone now. Get ready for this, guys. Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide, please?
Dr.
Right.
Silkman?
Yeah.
Justine J answered your question.
Oh.
And her opinion is that TH was definitely not burned in the pit. I think she was set on fire and cussed, severely burned to death, then moved to a crematorium to finish off. They probably removed a piece of bone with tissue present before final cremation. Then some bones were placed in pit and burn barrels.
Wow. Okay. Duke, are you getting excited? Are you getting excited for your presentation? I tell you what, isn't that incredible? Thank you so much, Justine. Neville, did you have a comment?
No. I was just thinking, Lank, Colburn, Kaczarski, the Three Stooges, and Remaker was stuck with them, pretty much. So
Correct.
they were the ones without the Remaker. Lank, Colby, and Kaczarski were in Stephen's house, right? Finding the key when they found the key. So that was maybe some kind of a little team as well, because this is another, yes. The three of them stuck together and probably had Remaker to follow him around. I don't know.
Well, Kaczarski, who's from Calumet, was meant to be looking at all the MTSO officers and what they were doing. He was like a chaperone. Jack 61, do you have a comment, please?
Yeah, he definitely was a chaperone, but talking about where Teresa was potentially dismembered and burned, I keep going back to what you really revealed last week and what Jason just did, or what he found on the evening after dark, late on the 7th. He was with 2 dog handlers over in the Manitowoc County gravel pit, and they started digging at that concrete.
Oh, correct. 100% correct. And that was a hit by Brutus, Alert 15, I think it was. And we're going to go into that.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
and that, yep.
Well, I mean, I can't get it out of my brain. I'm not saying that that's what, that she was actually, burnt there, but those dogs hit on something.
Oh, no doubt. And Duke is going to go into that area and also into what happened at the burn pit in terms of the sifting process. Now, guys, have a look at this picture here, right? Now, we've all seen this picture many, many times. I have. Everyone on the panel has many, many times. And Duke and I we were just, and also Jack 61, we were discussing various aspects of our presentation for today. And Juke made a comment to me. And I thought, Juke, what are you talking about here? Until I saw it. And I'll tell you what, my jaw fell to the ground. I dropped my coffee and I went into a fetal position. Right. And I haven't recovered since, because I've been looking at this picture for a long time. This is a picture taken by Trooper Reese. This is November the 6th, right? November the 6th. Now, let me tell you this. Kercharsky checks in at 7:48 in the morning and he checks out at 4:43 p.m. Trooper Reese checks in at 11:45. I checked the login logout sheets, and he logs out at 1:45 p.m. If you look at this picture taken by Trooper Reese, guys, would you all agree that it's mid-morning, mid-afternoon? It's not late evening, is it? It's sort of like probably it's sometime after 11:45. You can definitely see the sunlight. Guys, we cool? Does everyone agree? Yep. Everyone agrees? Now, November the 6th, Jack 61.
Yeah, and going back just a second, I will tell you guys what Doc said about him curling up in the fetal position. I can tell you it's true because he sent me the photo and he's like, "What do you see here?"
Correct.
Crazy.
And this was just a throwaway comment by Juke. And I thought, oh my God, you're kidding. So if you have a look at this picture here, right? The important thing is on November the 6th, this is the same day that Kercharsky pulls out his gun on a vicious bear, correct? Now, that meant that Remika and Kercharsky couldn't search the burn pit because bear was vicious. I'm thinking, oh my God, this must be terrible, terrible. Now, on November the 6th, on the evening of November the 6th, both Carla and Barb go and feed bear, but they do it after 7:10 p.m. That's when they check in, right? Jason Jost feeds bear on November the 7th, right? So I looked at this photo many, many times, and what you can clearly see, you can see two guys, right, in the background. They're holding bags. You can actually see Stephen Avery's burn barrel, and there's no crime scene tape. There's no crime scene tape anywhere, right? Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide, please? So this picture, no big deal. But if we have a look at the next picture, you look on the right-hand side, there are two guys, as I said to you before, that are carrying bags, right? They're in the background. But if you look to the left, all of a sudden, it pops out. Guys, what do you see? I'm going to go round the panel. Don't say it. And in chat, Andy B, what do you see in that yellow box? What do you see?
It looks like a bloke, or a person stood there with holding the white Tupperware box or something.
Okay. Do you see anything in front of the gentleman? Can you make anything out?
I don't know. Is Burr lying down?
Okay.
No, I can't quite work out that one. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. Juke, what do you see?
I see a person, and I see just a good boy who's looking forward to whether it's some food or water. But he's getting something from someone there.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I don't recall. What do you see?
I can't quite make it out. I see the man, but I don't know what he's holding, and it could be Bear right there by the dog house. Probably is.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Susan, what do you see?
I do see the man. I can see his neck and head. I don't know if that's a water dish or I'm not sure. I really can't make out Bear.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
I did not see that guy there before. I'll say that.
Yep. I never has spotted him before, right? Jack 61. What do you see?
Well,
Have you covered yet?
I know what's there, but all I'll say is that when we first talked about this, I do see a man there, and he's carrying something, but I'm gonna let it go right there.
Okay. Okay. Just Rhonda, what do you see?
See a little silhouette of a man. Yeah, yeah, I can't make out what he's holding, and I'm not sure if that's Bear laying down because I would think if somebody came in that he would, especially if they were bringing food or water to him, he would be up and excited to see them with food or water. But yeah,
Yep.
I can't make out what that is that he's carrying.
Okay. Okay. But would you agree that it's white?
Oh yes, yes.
Yep.
Maybe the
Okay.
white bucket perhaps that I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you, just Rhonda. Neverly, what do you see? Neverly, you there? Is your microphone muted? Yeah, you're muted. What do you see? No. She dropped out. Neverly, you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yep. What do you see?
Well, you and I have discussed this picture at length, didn't we? We even tried
Yes.
to clean it up a little bit to be more visible, but this is actually better than the cleaned up one. I definitely see a man. I actually see his face with some kind of a head covering, a hat or a cap, whatever, carrying something white, whether that's a white pail or a white bag. And I see a dog of a striking resemblance of Bear's colors, right? Which is black and tan, kind
He's a
of.
good he's a good
Correct.
boy. He's a
Good
good
He's
boy.
a
boy.
good boy.
Yes,
He's a good
yes.
boy. But
Kind of looking back at the person
you mean with his tail up?
with his tail up.
I see
Right.
it
Like,
now.
now,
I
if
think
you
I can
can,
see it now.
yeah.
Can you
Now,
see?
once,
Can we zoom
what,
out again
yeah.
just for a minute?
Zoom out. And what's important here is if you look to the left of that picture of the yellow square, you can actually see the blue bucket on the ground. There's a
Yeah,
blue
I
bucket
saw
on
that.
the ground.
I did see
And
that. Yeah.
And notice in the black square is the white bowl. So this is
Uh-huh.
a different container. You see the white bowl in the foreground in the black? That's not the same one. So whoever this gentleman is, he's holding either a white bucket or white something, and he could be pouring water out, or it could just be just pixelated because what we've done is we've blown it up, right? But there's no doubt in my mind, unless I'm hallucinating, you've got a guy standing next to Bear. Guys, would you agree? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Now, wait a
Yeah,
minute.
that's what I see.
There's no doubt. Absolutely no doubt.
Now, wait a minute. Didn't Kacharsky just say that he couldn't examine the burn pit because the dog was vicious on the exact same day that we've now seen a guy, likely a law enforcement officer, right next to Bear, and Bear's actually looking up at him. Duke, do you have a comment?
Well, I was
Juke.
just going to say, I think that brown mark, and again, I know it's blurry, but that little brown tan spot on Bear's fur right there was the giveaway for me. You can also see the tan in his legs as well. But you see the dark, and then you see that little tan spot. That is Bear right there.
That's Bear. That's the tire. Bear, Jack 61, if you move your pointer to the right, where you know where the yellow line is. Yeah, right there. You're on Bear right now. As soon as you see
he's
it,
standing
Bear,
up. I can see
standing up.
now.
Yep, and his tail's up, and he's looking at the guy. And right next to Bear on the left is the tire with the rocks. That's where he's chained to.
Yeah.
So Bear is looking up at the guy, either feeding him, giving him water or something, but that's a law enforcement officer. It's not Barb. It's not Carla. They're not there yet. It's not Jost, because Jost feeds Bear the very next day, right? You've got someone who's feeding Bear, and Bear's right next to him on November the 6th. And
You
I
know,
tell you
Doc,
what,
I noticed the
yes,
east side of all the buildings are in the dark, are
yes,
in shadow. So it
yes.
has to be past noon sometime.
Okay, good,
Um,
good, good, good. Because that's when Trooper Reese clocked in at 11:45. So it would have taken him some time to get down to the scene to take his photographs, right? So yeah, that makes perfect sense. And notice when Trooper Reese was there, Kacharsky was there, and Kacharsky is Calumet, right? Does anyone have any other comments?
he's the babysitter.
He's the baby. He's literally the babysitter, right? Now, guys, would this be the first time, and in chat, would this be the first time you've ever noticed a person standing there with some type of bowl? Andy, yes or no? First time.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. Me too. And I've been on this case for 4 years. First time I noticed that. Duke, kudos to you, good buddy. What about yourself?
Good find.
I just have this bad habit of when I'm looking at photos from this case, I tend to zoom and look all over, just because, again, you can never take anything at face value in this case. And so it was just one of those moments where I zoomed and I saw something, and there he was.
Correct. So you and I need to get together to examine the Zapruder film, right? Right, because this is a Zapruder film-like moment. I kid you not, because I'm going to prove to you that it destroys the case that Bear was vicious. Completely destroys it. What about you? I don't recall. Is this the first time you noticed a guy standing there with some type of feeding bowl?
It is. Never noticed it before.
Yep. Amazing. Susan, what about yourself?
Absolutely. Yep. No, and I probably never would have spotted it.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susan. Jack 61.
Absolutely. And I've probably looked at this photo 100 times, and I never zoomed on. I never really noticed anything in the shadow over there. And it is a Zapruder film moment because, in addition to this, remember the video clip that we showed? I don't know, probably been 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Yeah, the two
dog.
officers, and that was on the, and the bears just walked around
That
like
was the 6th.
yeah.
And that
so
was the 6th.
That's right, and he just walked around like whatever, don't give a shit.
Correct.
And Nan's wife did ask what day was this? It's the 6th,
This
right?
is November the 6th. Trooper Reese. The same day that Kacharsky said Bear was so vicious I had to pull a gun on him. And it clearly cannot be the case. And Kacharsky is a dog handler who obviously knows how to handle any type of vicious dog. And you know what the irony is? Do you know where I'm going with this? Wouldn't it be ironical if the guy feeding the dog is Juke? You want to say it?
It might be our man Kucharski.
It could be Kacharsky. It could be Kacharsky. And let me explain in a minute. All right. So did I ask you just, Rhonda, whether that was the first time you've seen it?
That is the first time I've seen it, and now I can't unsee it.
Yep. Yeah. You can actually see Bear sitting down with his hind legs, and he's looking up, and you can also see the tail because Bear is two-toned. Now notice Bear is not at the opposite end of the garage. Bear is right next to the officer. It's likely a law enforcement officer with the feeding bowl. Neverly, was that the first time you've ever seen the gentleman?
Yes, I would have probably not seen. But here's another thing. Now, after all this hard work and how many people looking into the case and dissecting it to the molecular level, that one is for you, Dr. Silkman, Mr. Molecular Biologist. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, but now we have the confidence to claim something like this because 4 or 5 years ago we would have sounded like a bunch of wankers saying something like that. Could you imagine? We would have been ridiculed to say with confidence that there's a law enforcement officer with Bear standing there probably feeding him.
Correct.
And the whole vicious thing, I don't know how about you guys, but I have this feeling that they took a part of narrative of George Zipper's narrative, and his vicious dog.
100% correct. And all that Kratz did was transplant it onto Bear.
Because, like many other things.
Correct. He simply juxtaposed George Zipper's dog onto Bear. And this now, to me, is absolute stunning proof that Bear was not vicious, because otherwise there's no way that you're going to have a law enforcement officer standing that close to the dog. Juke.
And another,
Go ahead,
Juke.
Juke, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Juke.
Okay, thanks. Well, I was just going to say, and not to put one foot in front of the other, but this in and of itself is pretty significant proof. And I think about in 30 minutes or so, we're going to have, if you're 99% now, you're going to be 100% in about 30 minutes.
Incredible. Neverly, would you like to continue? Thank you so much, Juke. Neverly.
Sure. I was going to say, just like we have noticed that something huge was missing from all of the reports that were written, that nobody depicted the smell, noted the smell, which is a significant finding, right? It would have been a significant finding, but we didn't find it anywhere in any reports. I feel that all these dog handlers would have said something, not just one, but multiple dog handlers who would have mentioned that the junkyard dog Bear was vicious and that they had to do an intervention.
Correct.
Because that's their line of work. That's what I would talk about.
Correct. If the investigators felt that the burn pit was a crime scene, a place of interest, they would have removed Bear. And remember how long it took the two vets, Jack 61, to remove Bear? 7 minutes. And that included checking in and checking out.
Yeah, they would have had to check in and go talk to whoever at the command post, and they'd been like, okay, so you probably burned 3 or 4 minutes right there.
Correct. So all they would have done is unchained him and walked him away.
Yeah, but he's vicious. He's going to bite you.
I wholeheartedly believe that the dog handlers would have mentioned that that bear was vicious because of the safety of everybody over there, including themselves. But they didn't.
Correct. Juke, do you have a comment?
Well, I've always wanted to mention this, and I'm going to take full advantage of my opportunity to be here. The 7 minutes that it took the vets to remove him, in my humble opinion, I think it was really quick because they had that good boy down there waiting for him to get picked up.
Oh,
I think he was
yeah.
getting a lot of loving before he got picked up there.
So in other words, they had removed him already. Is that
Oh
what
yeah.
you...
I mean, yeah, they moved him just to, moved him over to Barb's place for a little while, and then when it was time for him to get picked up, they brought him down to the command center. He was probably walking around with everyone, getting some good pets, and quick in and out for the vets.
Yep, correct. Oh, no doubt. That's brilliant. Absolutely. Don't forget, Barb also had 2 dogs on her property as well. Susan, do you have a comment?
I was just wondering if we can see that photograph of that Trooper Reese did that shows bear's reach in that animated type.
That's an earlier one. Jack 61 will have to go back to that one. It's the one. It's an animated one. You mean there's no question that a bear would have been able to reach that area because that's where he was chained up on. So if the gentleman with the white bucket was anywhere near that garage, bear would have easily got to him if he was aggressive. Duke. Oh, sorry, Susan.
Well, I'm just wondering if, because you see something kind of blue tailing off of that white thing, I'm wondering if maybe that's some sort of an evidence bag in his pocket or something.
Well, the other possibility is that there could be a jacket in front of that white bucket. In other words, semi-disguising it, because you'll see in a minute when I do the comparison, that could well be the big bucket of food that we see after. Susan.
Yeah, unless Barb put that out when she came later.
Could be.
But
no, it can't be. It can't be. It's not Barb. It's not Barb. I'll prove it to you. Sorry, Susan. Keep going.
Okay. Now, do you think this guy we're looking at his back? He's looking away from us?
No.
That's what I'm seeing. No?
No. Because I'll show you. I believe this guy's wearing a cap. An actual cap.
Okay.
And I'll show you in a minute. I think he's wearing a cap and he's actually facing Bear, and Bear's looking at him. Anybody else have a comment? We're all good? All right.
And this was a candid picture, actually, a photograph. Sorry, Jack. This is a candid photograph of the photographer. You know what I mean? He was just capturing a bigger picture and happened to catch this. So it wasn't staged, or he wasn't looking for something like that. So it was just a happenstance that we were able to put it together.
Well, Jack 61, are you able to go back to A5?
Yep.
The original picture. Now, if you have a look at the original picture, you'll see where Trooper Reese was standing, right? Trooper Reese was actually standing quite a distance away, right? If you look at A5, look how far Trooper Reese was.
He was in Barb's backyard.
Yep. So hence, what Neverly said is correct. The guy feeding Bear would have had no idea where Trooper Reese was. Would you guys agree? Trooper Reese was a long distance away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's just carrying on of the feeding of Bear, whether it's food or water. He would have been oblivious to the photographer where Trooper Reese is. Look how far Trooper Reese is, right? And the amazing thing is, I always saw those 2 guys in the middle of the picture. I never saw the guy next to the kennel, the dog kennel. Jack 61.
Yeah, if one of the mods can look up just a little bit. Grammy had a question that deserves, some kind of quick answer. You see it, Susan, or Beverly, or Rhonda, or Cherie?
I see it. She says,
Yeah,
so was Bear the excuse for all of them to be on the property so long?
Who would like to answer that one? Juke.
I don't think Bear was the excuse for why they were on the property so long. Their excuse throughout the entire investigation and throughout the entire trial was how large the property was. So they talked about the 40 acres. And they also hinted at a lot of time being spent off-site as well, without going into
Correct.
details. So it was more so their excuse was the size of the property that they were investigating.
Correct. And sorry, Jack 61.
Well, I just, to pile onto that, to Duke's response, which is correct, I have to always consider exactly what he said, how much time they spent off the fucking property, pardon my French. And they did.
Correct.
A huge amount of time, because the dogs did spend some time, searching the cars and so forth and so on. But they spent a massive amount of time off the Avery salvage yard. They kept going away from it. It's like, there's nothing here. What am I doing here? So
Correct.
So they had to
Correct.
have some. I think they had to have some excuse, Doc, and everyone. That's my opinion.
Correct. But the other important thing is this. Kratz explained that the reason why they didn't find the bone fragments on November the 5th, 6th, and 7th was because of the vicious bear. But the irony is this. Jost found the Cremation, the first bone fragment, on November the 8th in the grass, 8 feet south of the burn pit. And as Juke will illustrate shortly, they sifted the burn pit and Bear was still there. They didn't remove Bear until the 9th. So this whole story that Bear was vicious, we've now shown you video proof by those 2 detectives who were right next to the vicinity of Bear. Bear never charged. Bear never barked. You can listen to the entire walkthrough video. You don't hear Bear barking at all. And those guys were in the garage. Andy B.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate Duke on finding
Phenomenal
the
finding.
badge man.
The badge man
on top of the grassy burn pit. Well done.
That's it. That's it. The badge man on top of the burn pit, on top of the grassy burn pit. Oh my God. Thank you, Andy B. Susan, do you have
I
thank
find
you,
it
Andy
very
B.
interesting that they actually said in that testimony that we wanted to take a look at the burn pit, but we couldn't because of Bear. But Bear, Barb came a couple hours later. They could have had Barb.
7.
She came on the 6th and the 8th, right?
Correct.
To feed him.
On the 6th, on the night of the 6th. Yeah, correct.
So she came that evening. She could have moved him up by Ma's house. I mean, they could have had her move him.
Correct. They had family members. Well, there was Carla and Barb on the 6th.
Yeah. Yeah, and they say they wanted to look in the pit. So why not have her move him?
Correct. Because Bear wasn't vicious. Jack 61.
Yeah.
Susan, check out the screen on YouTube and see if this is what you wanted to see. I found it for you, I think.
That's exactly it, Jack. Thank you so much. Yep.
Now,
look at that reach he's got.
You see the circumference? That
Yep.
guy, if Bear was vicious, that guy was toast. Do you all see
He'd ate him alive. It's such bullshit. I call shenanigans
You can
on this.
also
Of course,
see.
I couldn't prove it, but I call shenanigans on this years ago. Anyone could have gotten Bear. I didn't believe he was vicious back then, but you guys are really, Duke and Doc and Neverly, you guys have really thrown down the gauntlet here.
But guys, check it out. Susan.
You can also see in this, look where the wires are tangled in Bear's line.
Yes.
If you swing that around, that's when he was walking. It dragged through the burn pit, I would say,
Correct.
and
Correct.
picked up some of those wires.
Correct. And there is also is a photograph that shows wires right next to his kennel as well. So the
Uh-huh.
dog was dragging the tire cord wires through his chain.
Yeah.
Also there's a photograph where Juke stated that you could see the dog food. If you close in on the actual chain, you can see that there were embedded wires, right?
Yep.
So it's very, very interesting that I don't think anyone ever mentions cremains in the wires next to Bear's chain. Isn't that
No.
interesting? Isn't that interesting? Right?
Yep.
So quite clearly, Bear would have been able to reach the guy with that white container. And it's obvious that whoever is feeding Bear is not scared of Bear. But guys, this is mind-blowing because this is a freaking law enforcement officer. It's not a family member. It's a law enforcement officer right next to Bear with a feeding bowl, some type of bowl. And Kucharski, that very same day, said he couldn't get next to the burn pit because Bear was vicious and Kucharski pulled a gun on him. I think that's a bullshit story. Jack 61.
It is complete bullshit. And what they've done, and they sold the story because no one was able to put it all together because I mean, let's just be honest. A lot of these photographs. I mean, what Reese did was it's just pure gold to this case because it's allowed us
Correct.
to really dismantle this horrific story and narrative that Kratz sold at trial into the public. It's complete and
Correct.
utter bullshit and part of the narrative, and it's one of these really frustrating moments. It's a face barrier. I doubt that Buting and String. I'm sure they probably had these photographs, but um, I've requested more photographs from the Wisconsin State Trooper. This division, I'm hoping to get something for the 8th and 9th that may tell us more. I haven't heard back yet, but
Well,
damn.
yep. I checked the login, log out sheets. They weren't there on the 8th and 9th. Trooper Reese, he wasn't there. I could not find any evidence of him logging in. Whether he didn't log
Yep.
in, that I don't know. But I can't find any evidence that he logged in.
Maybe off site with his
It could
nifty
be.
camera. I just find
I
it
mean,
strange.
that upload.
Yeah, I just find it strange that we have really all week, except for the 8th and 9th, any photographs from these guys. I
Correct.
find it really, really, maybe one day, but for two, I don't know. Maybe it's just me and I'm jaded, but I find it really odd that we don't have
Yes.
one or both days some photographs, Doc.
Yes. 100%. Neverly, do you have a quick comment?
To quote KZ, the details, the devil's in the details, right? And this is
Correct.
one of those as well. So
Correct.
basically, to sum it all up, the whole narrative that Bear was vicious and that they couldn't process basically the crime scene properly is
Correct.
because of Bear is just a cop out or
Which is
bullshit. Yeah.
with 100% bullshit. Jack 61, can we have the look at the next slide, A7? Because I just want to do the next couple of slides quick because I want to get Duke on with his presentation. But yeah,
Or as Alice would say, it's all a load of bollocks.
a lot of bollocks. Now have a look at this. Have a look at this. So I compared the picture from November the 6th to a picture from November the 7th. And the good thing is it's almost the same point of view. And if you have a look on the left-hand side on November the 6th, you can see there's definitely no white bucket near the kennel, no large white bucket near the kennel. You can see the tire that contains the rocks on top. This is on the left-hand side. You can see the gentleman holding what appears to be a white bucket, and you can see Bear, right? Once you see Bear, it pops out. It's obvious. That's Bear because bear is two-tone in color. So the question is, who the hell is the guy holding the white container in front of bear? And he appears to be wearing a cap on top of his head. If you look on the right-hand side, on November the 7th, you can now see the white bucket. That's the white bucket that contains food. We've seen that it contains food. You can see the round tire with the rocks on top. And there's bear, two-toned. And look, he's almost standing in exactly the same position as he was on November the 6th. And you can see it's obvious, right? Once you look on the left-hand side, bear pops out. He's two-toned. You can see the light color of the legs, the dark color of the coat. Guys, they're busted. There is a law enforcement officer feeding the dog on November the 6th in the same proximity as bear, who was said to be vicious and prevented the investigators from examining the burn pit for human remains. We've done a myth busters, Jack 61.
There's no doubt, absolutely no doubt. The proof is right there. You can see it plain as day. Once you see it, as Rhonda said, you can't unsee it.
Unbelievable. Susan.
It looks like Kacharsky's thick neck to me in that photo.
Well, let's continue with the next slide, Jack 61. Slide A8, because this is going to be very interesting. So what I did, right, I did a collage. So on the morning or after 11:45, on November the 6th, Trooper Reese takes a picture of the, this is a zoomed in picture. You can clearly see there's no white bucket near the kennel. On November the 6th, Trooper Reese happens to snap Bucket Man. Shall we call him Andy B? Shall we call him Bucket Man? Bucket Man, right? Holding a white bucket. And you can see
Sounds
bear.
good to me, Doc.
Bucket Man. Yep. Bucket Man on the grassy burn pit. Right? You can see the guy holding a white bucket. Now, here's the kicker. On November the 6th, early evening, the two detectives who did a walkthrough video snapped the burn pit with their video camera. What do you see at the kennel? The white bucket. So, on November the 6th, in the morning, there's no white bucket. Then there's the guy with a white bucket. You don't know whether there's something in front of the white bucket shielding it. Could be a cover, could be anything. And then later, on the same day, before Carla and Barb, there's the white bucket. Juke.
And just for anyone who might not be sure, and I know Jack is another Midwest guy will back me up here, at this time of year at 7:10 p.m. when Barb and Carla are on the property to feed them, it would have been pitch black. That's how we know for sure that white bucket came before Barb and Carla got there.
Yes, correct.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. It gets, once it turns fall time and, you have daylight savings time, you damn right it would have been dark.
Correct. So the interesting thing is, did a law enforcement, now think about this, did a law enforcement officer leave a bucket full of food for bear? And this is going to become significant because what did Sergeant Jason Jost do one day after? The ruse was, I was told to feed the dogs. Did someone not tell Jason Jost that a whole bucket of food was left for the dog?
And he was vicious, Doc. You can remember.
And he was vicious. He was vicious. And Jason Jost we know was at the Manitowoc County gravel pit, in Redonce quarry, and same day, he's at the burn pit. One day after, on the 8th, he's the first guy to find a bone fragment, and he tells everyone, you should examine the burn pit. Holy shit, have we just uncovered the planting scenario for the cremains?
Absolutely. No doubt.
Have we just worked it out? Susan?
You've got to wonder, why did they allow Carla and Barb in to feed Bear if he had a giant bucket of food there?
That's correct, but not only that, they went with them. They escorted them.
Right.
They never left them alone, right? And I would love to chat to Barb, if we could, to say, what did you do that night? Did you actually feed Bear? Or did you just see that he had already food and just walk away at Jack 61? Yeah.
Well, the bigger story to me, well, not only that, that's a great point, but not only that, you think about these guys they seized the property, under warrant by 3 or 3:30 that day, but they were already on the property. They were already exploring. So someone please explain to me, for at least a couple of days, these guys were back there. Somebody was probably, well, we know several were. And nobody saw a fucking thing. Nobody. And there wasn't.
Nobody.
These weren't rookie cops. It's bullshit. It's absolute crap. I'm telling you.
Correct, but I honestly think we've caught them out in a massive lie.
Absolutely.
If this is who I think it is, this is phenomenal. I don't think he realized that he got photographed. Juke.
I don't either.
I don't think he realized he got photographed. Juke.
Well, to be fair, Doc, even and I think we can make a pretty good inference on who it is. But even if it's not him, let's just say it's not him, that white bucket being there before Carla and Barb get onto the property means that 100% for sure there's a law enforcement officer that's going directly next to the burn pit to put that bucket there. It's right next to it. So regardless of who it is, he went right there.
Correct. And not only that, one day after, Sergeant Jason Jost admitted being at the burn pit. That is phenomenal. And now we have photographic evidence that there is a law enforcement officer within feet of the burn pit. There is no report of that guy seeing any bones, smelling anything, nothing. Isn't that remarkable? All right, Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide, please? So this is A9, and this shows the comparison again of you've got a guy on November the 6th. This is a photograph taken by Trooper Reese, a guy feeding bear on November the 6th. On November the 7th, this is a photograph done by Trooper Reese as well. Sergeant Jason Jost admits that he fed Bear with two other guys. He had to get their help because Bear was vicious. And remember, Juke, you pointed out the picture. He had to throw the food on the ground. But wait a minute. We have a white bucket full of dog food, and Carla and Barb fed Bear on the 6th. So was it a ruse by Sergeant Jason Jost to get next to the burn pit to plant bones? What do you think, guys? Yes or no? Susan?
On the day of Cuss Road.
On the day of Cuss Road. On the day of Cuss Road. And on the day he was at the Manitowoc County gravel pit and Redonce with cadaver dogs.
That too.
That too. Jack 61.
And what Souders found, remember? What did they take
Correct.
from what did they take from Cuss Road and bring over on the evening after dark on the 7th? Why was Jost over with cadaver dogs at night? And you remember, guys, he clocked in, I think around 8 or so that morning of the 7th, and he
It
didn't
was
leave.
all day.
Yep, and then he didn't leave. If you look at the check-in, check-out log, I think it was 11:40 or 11:45. It was almost midnight. He worked almost a 16-hour day. What was he doing over in the Manitowoc County gravel pit with cadaver dogs late at night? There's no report. We have nothing. And that's been requested.
No, and we don't have the reports of those dogs either, right?
And
All right.
why Jost to feed bear? I mean, the
Yep.
guy's
Correct.
all over the gravel pits. He's all, Cuss Road. He's like all over.
And this guy's a
Why
sergeant.
him to feed bear?
He's not just a
He's a
regular cop.
sergeant.
Right. He's a sergeant. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Correct.
Bullshit.
Correct. All right, Jack 61. Can we have a look at the next slide, please? A10. I'm nearly finished. Sorry, Juke, but we got a lot of questions. But if we look at A10, right? A10. Have you got A10, Jack 61?
Well, I thought I'd.
Should be the one after that one. It's the one with the kennel. A10. Let's have a look.
I do have it,
Do
but
we
I
have
don't
any
know.
questions in the chat?
I do have it, but I don't know why it's not coming up. I'll fix that. Just a second.
Are we all good?
I mean,
Justine J had a good comment. She said,
Yes.
if you're a copper and you're looking for a missing person and walk past a burn pit, you are going to look at it.
Correct. And don't worry, we'll cover that as well. Jack 61, do you have A10? I think I've got like a few more slides and then I'm done. We'll just have a look. Do we have any other comments? We all good? Duke, do you have anything to add?
No, not right now.
Okay, awesome. We're nearly finished. So
sorry, I was muted. I don't know why the program skipped to B, but I did.
No.
I do have A10, obviously, so it's there.
Yep, I got it. No, it's there on the screen. We got it. So if you have a look, this is an incredible picture. You've got the picture on November the 6th, and you've got a picture on November the 11th, and you got reference points. So if you look at the top of the kennel comes to about chest height in both individuals, which means that, guys, without doubt, we are looking at a human being, right? Proportion-wise, it fits perfectly. There's a person there. There's no doubt, and that person has got a white bowl or bucket of some type. It all fits in perfectly. Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide, please? A11. Now, this is a complete shocker, right? Now, this photograph was taken on the same day by Trooper Reese on November the 6th. It's daylight under the same conditions as the other photograph next to the kennel. Have a look. You can have a look. There's an officer wearing dark clothing right next to a Calumet County police car. And
with the hat.
With a hat. And if you have a look at A12, you can see him closer up in the next slide in A12. Now, I know that it looks like he's got some type of white buckle that's caught the sun. I'm not sure whether that's a police badge or whether that's glasses that's reflecting sunlight. But you can clearly see the gentleman is wearing dark clothing and a cap It's
I'll bet
dark.
that's some sort of lettering on it.
Could be.
Yeah.
And have a look at the cap. And the guy looks like he's got short hair, shortish hair. Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide, please? Now, this is purely speculative, but have a look at this. If you take the guy's head and put it next to the figure, it's a match. The look at the shape of the cap and the shape of the guy in the photo, it's almost identical. It covers the guy's eyes, and it's a dark cap and dark clothing. Jack 61.
There's no doubt in my mind. I've looked at this dozens of times since you sent it to me. There's no doubt in my mind. It's him. Same guy.
I think we got him.
Yeah.
And
You just proved he wasn't, that's not the back of him. That's,
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah. And
yeah.
you can see the sunlight. You see the sunlight, how it's glisten on the side of his face. It's exactly same perspective, same profile
From the west.
when he was at the car. When he was at the car. I think we got him. And of
Wow.
course, Kacharsky is from Calumet. And Kacharsky is a dog handler. Who do you think is more likely to feed a dog but a dog handler? So if that's Kacharsky, oh my God, he lied.
It also,
he perjured himself in court. Sorry, Susan.
it also looked like someone was sitting in that car in the passenger seat.
Interesting.
There absolutely was. You can see them. I can go back. I'll show you.
Yep. Let's have a look. Oh, yes, you can see. Is that like a hat? Is that who you took? Oh, yes.
You can see the seatbelt.
Yeah.
Boy, that's pretty grainy.
It
Yeah,
is.
it is.
It's pretty pixelated, but I looks like somebody may be wearing glasses, but I can see some reflection around their face here.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. It's not clear. Not clear.
No.
But
Looks like grass to me.
it looks like grass. Well, I think he was there. I think he was there. So, guys, I think with we'll have a look at Jack 61. Do you have the final slide? This will be my last slide before we introduce Juke.
A14?
No, there was a slide. Did I send you the slide of the gentleman with the dark hat looking down? Do you have that one?
What's it labeled?
It should be A14 or 13B. A13B.
I do have it. Just a second.
13.
13B. Should be A13B.
Yeah, I've got it. Just a second.
I shared this with Juke the other day, that when the two guys were taking videos of the salvage near the burn pit and the salvage yard near Stephen's place, a guy comes out of nowhere wearing a dark hat, dark clothing, and he's looking down. He does not look at the cameraman at all. So it's very, very interesting. Jack 61, do you have that one? It's A13.
I do. I'm just going to go to Google Photos because I don't know why this program's not picking it up.
No problems at all. No problems at all. So I think, guys, this guy comes out of nowhere, and he's wearing a dark hat and a dark jacket, which is truly remarkable. So look, guys, that's the end of my presentation. I think through the fantastic observation by Juke and the analysis by the foul play team, guys, I think we have exonerated Bear.
They're caught
and not only that,
in a huge lie. Huge lie.
Not only that, we have caught the state as Jack 61 just said, the biggest whopper you've ever seen. Bear was not vicious at all. It was a bullshit cover story.
What
And I
did
think
Bobby say on the stand
Bobby
about
said that
Bear?
Bear was calm. Bear was calm. And Kratz completely changed his tact and went to another question. Unbelievable.
But
Well,
when you
look,
think about it, this was an extensive lie by a
yes,
few people. Extensive lie with this whole vicious bear bullshit story. And
yes,
somehow I cannot help myself, maybe I'm traumatized by Kratz, to think that Kratz had nothing to do with this or had
no.
something to do with this.
Oh,
You know what I
he
mean?
had the narrative.
Yeah.
He had to come up with a reason they didn't find those bones earlier.
Yeah. And I could just
Absolutely.
picture him saying that, vicious dog, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there you go.
Guys,
And don't
can you,
forget. I'm sorry. Doc.
no, can you guys continue the discussion? I've got to go away for a couple of minutes, but I'll come back. I'll just mute, but keep on going. Keep the discussion going. I'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you.
Absolutely. I just wanted to point out before we continue. Remember the phone call between Sipple and Jost, and basically getting their story straight, because Sipple says, well, my arson investigator wants everybody that was there. He wants a report from them. Jost wasn't even going to write a report about this huge find that he allegedly did on November the 8th of finding this bone and getting everybody over there. And so they talked for a couple minutes, whatever, and then Jost is going to stop by up there, and I'm sure it was to get their ducks in a row. I have no doubt about it.
Yes, humongous find. He was the first one to mention the discovery of the bones near the quote-unquote crime scene, the fire pit, right? And for him not to want to write anything down, a report of his findings, I don't know how he kept his job, honestly, like in a perfect world.
Well,
Also,
there's something else to add to that too, Neverly, and I'll let you continue. D.I. Shutter didn't know that Jost was the one. He says that in that phone call. Oh, I didn't know it was you. How the hell he's the deputy inspector. How does he not know what his activities? I just don't
it
understand.
should have been broadcasted to everybody. Hey guys, we found evidence.
Yeah,
Crucial evidence. Proof.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
can
he
I
was
also
not
say,
called to the stand. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Duke.
well, thanks. I was just gonna say what always sticks out to me in that call between Jost and Sipple, or I'm sorry, Jost and Shutter, was when Shutter does express to him that he's surprised that he's the one that found it. Jost backtracks and he doesn't say, "Yeah, I am the one that found it." He says, "Well, I didn't. I just directed their attention to it."
Yeah, exactly.
For some reason, he's hesitant to say that he found it.
That's right.
"Oh,
Which is like
I just
distancing
directed their attention
himself.
to it." Oh yeah.
Don't you think that he's distancing himself from that whole thing?
He
You
did.
wonder why. Yeah. Well, usually the
He is
guilty ones try.
Manitowoc.
Yeah. There you go. And
MTSO once again.
and didn't want to cause attention to himself, where if this was all up and up and a transparent, legit investigation, he would have been like, attaboy all day long and then some.
Of course.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Agreed.
And then you also have Bushman at Road coming back from retirement or reserve, whatever they want to call it, doing this whole work, directing people again, calling the shots. And again, where is the report and where is he on the stand?
And also, they say.
Then call us conspiracists. Yeah.
They say that they wanted to have them checked out. First, they say it's obvious human bones, but they cover the pit and wait to find out if they're really human bones. If it's Teresa. Well, if there's human bones in that pit, I don't care who they are, whether it's Teresa or somebody else. You don't just cover it and leave it for a day.
You
Leave it
call,
alone for an entire day. And then
you call the
that's
medical examiner, right?
such bullshit.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, in return, what did they do? Actually, they traced away
Or the
that
coroner.
he caught. Yeah, the coroner.
Yeah.
And they collect the bones and they give it to, they put them in a box, give it to Eisenberg, the state's
No,
expert
not right
witness.
away.
I know, not right away. And she was out of town and the bones waited for like 3 days.
The
Yeah,
other
some
guy looked at
discovery.
him.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name, Jack?
Bennett.
Bennett.
Is he
Yeah,
the
he
one
was
who
the first one to inspect him.
Yeah, he
whose
examined
parents?
he examined the ilium bone. He's the one that said it's a female at least 25 years of age.
Right.
How would he know? I could see the ilium bone, but how would he know?
There's because
They have
as I
a
remember
way.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the female ilium bone is different than the male.
It's smaller, but what did he compare it to? What
I
about
get
if it was a 5'2" guy? You know what I mean? What did they compare to? So he can call it right away a female, 25-year-old female.
I don't know. Doc would probably have to answer that.
You see what I'm
But
saying?
I do.
Where
I do.
is the ilium? Where is the ilium in the
It's your
body?
hip. Your
It's
hip.
in it's the hip.
It's your
Okay.
hip.
It's part of the hip. So I actually did a presentation on this several years ago where I looked at all the bones where they were found in the hip. And the interesting thing is the ilium bone that was found allegedly in the burn pit is different to the bone fragment that was found in the Manitowoc County gravel pit. It's a different area of the hip. That's why Eisenberg could not say it was human, because you've got this clusterfuck of how could you explain how part of Teresa Horbach's hip bone is present in the burn pit and the other part of the hip bone, and it was an articulated bone, the only one. That means two bone pieces joined together. 8675, I think it was,
That's
in
right.
the Manitowoc gravel pit. Eisenberg said, suspect, possible human. If she had said human, or hell would have broken loose back in 2007.
Guess who
No one's
that's reminded me of?
which one?
This damn Lee. What's his first name?
Oh, Henry Lee.
Henry Lee.
Henry. Yeah.
Correct. So what we've done, you guys realize what we've done. We've exposed a massive shenanigan, and it's like an onion layer. What Kratz and his minions were telling the jury and the judge is a completely different narrative to what the canine dogs were revealing. Right, Jack 61? Right, Juke? Right, guys?
Absolutely.
Right.
A completely different narrative. And that's why we've spent so much time on the dogs, because the dogs are going to bust this case wide open. And not only that, we've just shown that Bear was in actual fact a friendly little dog. Well,
Good
look,
boy.
guys, he's a good boy. So are we ready for Juke now? Enough gas bagging from me. Are we ready for Juke?
Absolutely.
Juke, are you ready, good buddy?
Yes, boss, we're ready for Juke.
So I hope everyone in the audience has really enjoyed part A, but wait for part B. Juke.
Yeah, thanks, Doc. I'll start by saying this, because really the topic that I wanted to cover, and I think it fits in well just with where we're at in the series, where you guys are at in the series, and this is the case everywhere you look. When it comes to everything Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey here, there's a million directions you could go with every single detail that I'm about to cover here. And trust me, I've done my best to explore every angle from a factual standpoint. And so the findings that I'm going to present are a summed up version. You know, I'll point out some trial testimony and reports that'll give you some insight, but I can promise you that I can support this even further if anyone would like. And so as I go through this and as I kind of, you know, roll out what I'm presenting on, just know that if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them. And if we get done with this podcast and you'd like to learn how I came up with certain information, I'm happy to cite that for you. And I can't do that all in a short period of time here. And again, I believe that that is an intentional thing that the state have done here. Is they've given us so much that it really is hard to pull out the true narrative. And so this tidbit that I'm going to pull out for you, if you do want some further insight on where I came up with certain tidbits as I'm going through this, I might say something that I know because of my research that you might want the citing of, and I'm happy to provide that for you. So,
but not only that, Duke, we'll have you back for more presentations. So you don't have to jam pack everything in today. You present what you would like to present.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. That if we don't get done today, we can do it.
No, right.
We can do it. We can do it another time. We can do it on an open mic, whatever you want, whatever's convenient for you to get the information out that you want to present.
Sure. Yeah, because there are some, with this information, there are some pretty significant directions, a couple of different directions you could go with it that I'll touch on. Primarily what I'm going to focus on today for you guys is I thought, myself personally, that it was important that I look into what I feel like is the most important evidence, along with the RAV. It's probably about same tier. You know, the blood in the RAV is on a tier with what I believe is the remains of what they say is Teresa Hallback and Stevens burn pit.
Yes.
That is the most damning evidence against him. And so I wanted to explore that in a way that I could understand it. And so part of that is understanding what I believe is John Ertl and his team from the State Crime Lab. They have the sifting equipment that was used at the burn pit, as well as other places that I'll mention. But I really wanted to dig deep and figure out what did they use, because I never heard that they sifted it a million times. But I never truly understood that process. And once I started to understand that process, I started to understand how much of a load of bullshit this whole discovery, quote unquote, was. And so that's really the purpose of this. Not only the burn pit itself, but really, again, in my own opinion, what I believe is a crucial piece of evidence, and that's item BZ, because that is the only piece of evidence that they used to confirm that Teresa Hallback was in that burn pit. So that's important for us to look at, of where the hell that thing came from. It wasn't his burn pit. That's a pretty big detail. So that's really what I'm covering here today, and we'll see what we get through. And like I said, don't hesitate to interrupt me and ask questions. We'll just kind of start, and we'll go from there. Sound good, Doc?
Brilliant. Let's go for it, Duke.
So I need some help just with this quick little tidbit to start here. This is going to be just a little oversight. It's a good glimpse from Ertl during the trial of what his equipment, as far as his sifting equipment, entailed. So if I could just have two of you, one read the question and one read the answer. The question is coming from Fallon, who gave Ertl his was doing the direct examination for Ertl. And
I was just going to say, this is the direct to Ertl from Fallon.
Correct.
Well,
That's Stevens' trial.
Just pick a couple of readers. I mean, Susan and Neverly do a good job, and or whoever. I'm just saying, any of us can read.
Let's do Susan for the question, and Jack, why don't you read the answer? Why don't you be Ertl for me?
All right, will do.
Sure. Can you describe the sifting equipment for us?
It's 3 aluminum poles to hook together to form a tripod. It stands about 6 feet tall. There are chains coming down from the center top of the tripod to which we attach an aluminum frame. So it kind of can swing within the tripod. And on that aluminum frame, we can put different size mesh. You can put the materials on the top of the mesh, and you can use a trowel or a broom or just shaking, whatever works best for the material. And then the particles or bits that won't fall through the screen you can collect and examine. The bits that fell through the hold on, let me change the next one. That fell through the that skips. Okay, we don't finish that part. Looks like he has another answer. I am on the right one.
Oh,
correct?
Jack, go back. It just finishes on that first page there.
Yeah, you got some stuff on the bottom.
Oh, I apologize. I didn't go down far enough.
Yeah, the previous page.
Yeah, whatever works best for the material, right? Is that where I'm at?
That's it. That's it.
Yep.
Beautiful.
And then the particles or bits that won't fall through the screen, you can collect and examine. The bits that fell through the screen, we put a tarp under there and save those for later analysis if needed.
Do you use different types of screens?
In this case, I believe we use 2 different types of screens.
Perfect. So here's the analogy, and I'll show you guys a picture here in just 2 slides. But here's the picture I wanted you to see. There's this 6 foot plus kind of tripod that they set up, right? And coming down from that top of that tripod is some chains with the sifter. And it's important, really, at the bottom of that last page, he says they used 2 different types of screens.
Yeah.
It's super fascinating for me to see in the trials, and when I say trials, I mean Brennan's and Stevens.
You mean to show that photo? You mean show that photo right quick before we read
show that
some?
Photo, yeah.
Of the sifting equipment.
There it is. It's coming up. Slide. Yeah, it's coming up.
Perfect. Yeah. So on the right hand side there, this is now this isn't exact. By any means, because I couldn't find anything from Wisconsin that would give me exactly what Earl's using. But this is very, very similar to the type of equipment that when he says I set up my sifting equipment, this is what it looked like, right? Big tripod that has the sifter there hanging down, that once they put things onto it, you can either shake it, you can use your hand to kind of scrape the material to strain it through. And this is a great example because the bits that do work their way through fall to a tarp. And that's exactly what he did. Whenever he sifted anything in this case, and probably was protocol for them whenever he sifted anything, is to set up a tarp underneath, set up the tripod, and sift things that way. So,
and anything bigger than something really small is going to stay on top, right?
Depends on the mesh. Depends on the screen size.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
So that's what I wanted to talk about here is these screens, and we'll I can address this further whenever you guys want, but there's consistency within the size of the screens that were used. There is a slight inconsistency with how many of the screens were used, but if you look, Jack, at the 2 images that are kind of on the left-hand side at the bottom, the one on the, I would say it's kind of in the middle bottom side where that kind of got
the white one.
Yeah, this one on the right now. So I actually talked to, I called down to a guy, I think he works in Florida, and he actually is the owner of a company that builds this type of equipment for law enforcement and military. And I explained to him in this trial how it was phrased within the testimony of how there were different sifting screens used, and I couldn't figure out if that meant they had hooked up completely different sifters, and so that there was a chain hanging with one and a chain hanging lower with a second that the items would fall through one, go through the other. I couldn't quite figure that out. And he sent me this picture. He said, no, they're inserts. And so you have a standard mesh. In this case, the standard mesh that came with the sifter was a 1/2 inch wide. So when he set up the sifter, the mesh that was on it was a 1/2 inch, big. That's what the openings were. They
Juke,
had inserts. Yes.
these pictures that you're putting up now, they're not from the trial. These are an exemplar of a sifting equipment.
These are not, yeah, exactly right. They're not from the trial.
Okay.
They're not what John Ertl used, but they're very similar.
Yes.
In talking to and doing my research, this is the type of equipment that was used, and just to give you a picture of how it looked like. So with the standard sifter that he set up on the chains, he had inserts, and you can see on this right side of the image here, he would put in that were smaller mesh. And what's interesting is he had 3 sizes. Like I said, the original is 1/2 inch. That's how large the openings were. And he has his second insert he can put in, which is 1/4 inch. Again, shrinks that size. He even had a third that was 1/8 of an inch. So what we know for sure is that Ertl, and we'll see this a little bit in the next testimony, is that for sure the debris that he sifted from the burn pit went through 1/4 inch opening in terms of the mesh that he was using.
1/4 inch.
And anything larger than 1/4 of an inch would have remained on top of that sifter for them to examine by hand.
Won't go through.
I just have a comment.
May I just say, I'm sorry, Jack.
I just want to say, I don't know what height he had his sifter from the chains, but to me, if he was up anywhere, I mean, like high at all, and they're sifting this really fragile bone material, if it fell that far, couldn't that potentially like shatter it, Doc? And I mean, I'll ask Doc because
very unlikely. Ertl said that, and Juke will talk about it. Ertl did say that he was very, very careful the way he sifted it material.
I mean, if it was at a lower height, I mean, I could see, really very little damage or cracking or, these really fragile calcined bones staying together. I mean, I'm talking about small pieces. I was just curious.
Eisenberg stated that she saw no evidence of fracture due to the processing.
Okay.
I would just like to say the reason that you're having to use exemplar photos is because if they took photos, they haven't given them to us.
They haven't got any.
There are none.
There are none. There are no in situ photos.
That we
Wasn't
have,
there
anyway.
one? Wasn't there just one? Yeah, there was one when Eisenberg and was it even Wiegert?
No, that's when they were in. That's when they were in the
evidence.
a garage.
Yeah, evidence
Yeah.
of some kind.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay.
This is processing in situ.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have no evidence or no photos of any of the sifting equipment. That's why I requested the 8th and 9th from the Wisconsin State Trooper reconstruction. I can't believe they didn't take any photos of this. I'm telling you, even if Reese didn't do it, I think somebody else did.
And they also don't mention the size of the openings in the screen, which you would think they would ask that question. But
right. Well, they do. The question does get asked in trial. It does get asked of Ertl what were the size of the openings, and I do feel like again, I could talk about a lot of things here, but the defense in both cases had a chance to pounce on some questions that weren't asked, and that's unfortunate. But hindsight is always 20/20, right? But the important thing for me to show you guys, and some of you might have seen or done your own research on this before, but I never really understood what this sifting process looked like. And to your point, when I say sifting, in this case, there's really 2 different types of sifting that happen. There's the sifting that Ertl and his team did, and then there's the
Yes.
sifting that happened. It happened on 2 occasions in December and 2 occasions in April. And at some point, I will distinguish the difference between the two, because the differences are massive in
Yes.
how the sifting process works. But
Yes.
for the sake of today, this is the sifting process that Ertl and his team used at the time on the 8th at the burn pit. So they are
Yes.
shoveling the material onto the sifter with, at the bare minimum, a 1/4-inch opening for this debris to fall through. The one interesting tidbit, just to give you guys, is that Sturdivant actually says that it went through 3 separate sifting screens.
Yes.
And he says it, and a few questions later, he goes back and he says, now you said it went through 3 separate sifting screens, right? And he says, yes. So, again, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on this and saying they just used 2, like Ertl said, but they could have potentially used 3, which would then have been 1/8 of an inch of an opening, is what they were sending this debris through.
So, essentially, larger material, sorry, Duke, will get caught up on the screen. Larger material.
Yes. Yes. And this next tidbit of trial testimony is again from Ertl. It's actually from Brendan's trial, and the reason I'm using this is just because I felt like he described it a little bit more in depth, and so it's not inconsistent with Stephen's trial. It is a little bit more in depth and gives you some more insight into that process of what the sifting process was. So, if Jack, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just continue reading Ertl. So this starts off with an answer of his.
Yep.
And then Susan, if you wouldn't mind just reading the question when we get to it. But again, this is going to be, he's going to be talking about this process of how they did the sifting.
Okay. And this is Brendan's trial, correct?
This is Brendan's trial, correct?
And it's filing again on direct with Ertl.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start line 3. Okay. On the photograph there, we set the filter up. It would be just past those red flags, and we just past the end of that frame from that car seat. The shovel we used was one that we carried with us for this purpose. The sifter we actually was for exhuming grave sites. So we'll shovel out the material and sift through it looking for bones or bullets or whatever from the gravesite. In this case, we had a very hard ground on top of which was maybe from 0 to 6 inches of ashen material. It's the flat blade shovel, sort of like a garden spade, that was used, sort of like a dustpan, to scoop up the ash, and then I stood up and turned around and took a step and set it on the screen, and then the people around the screen would pick through it. The small material would fall through the screen onto a tarp, and the larger materials they would collect and put it in a box.
All right. What efforts did you undertake to ensure that you wouldn't damage or create any harm to any of the debris that was being recovered from the pit?
Well, it was done carefully. I guess that's what I can say. We didn't look real hard at the materials we were collecting. My advice to the people around the sifter was, if you're not sure, just put it in the box. Someone else will figure that out later, what it is. So we didn't spend time picking at the things that we were collecting. The shovel, we had a hard surface. It's just pick up the ash with it. I mean, it wasn't like we had to dig and just put our foot on it. and push down and dig up anything. It wasn't necessary. So it was pretty gentle process.
Tell us about the sifting part of the process.
It's sort of like hardware cloth, and we carry it, 3 different grades of it. I think there's half-inch mesh, a quarter-inch mesh, and an eighth-inch mesh. And we put this material through the quarter-inch mesh. So one scoopful at a time is placed onto the mesh, and the mesh is probably 3 foot by 3.5 foot rectangular area. And then the 5 people would, with their gloved hands, I believe, some of them had. Let's skip to the next. Had a mason's trowel. It's about this big, triangular, metal-shaped object with a handle, and to move the ash onto the screen. Spread it out, and then you can sort of tap the screen, and it all jiggles the material, and the finer particles would fall through.
All right. Did you or any of your team who participated in this process recognize any of the debris as human remains?
We recognized it as remains for sure. There were things that looked like teeth, things that looked like bone, nothing bigger than the palm of my hand, but whether it was human or not, we weren't sure.
Move it up.
Palm of my hand, that's huge.
Yeah.
We haven't seen anything that big.
No.
Well, most of the items were very small.
Yes, they were.
All right. Approximately how long did this process last?
Well, we asked for the better part. They had asked for the better the sifter for about 3 p.m. and we worked until it got dark. It was just after 5, so about 2 hours.
All right. And what did you do at the scene as you wrapped up this processing for that evening?
Well, once we had sifted all the materials, then we had what was collected in boxes. We packaged that up. That was eventually turned over to Calumet County. The material that was fallen through the screen onto the tarp was also saved, and Tom Sturdivant took care of that. And we just cleaned up the sifter and put it away. And then we proceeded on to our next task.
How was the material preserved that had fallen through the screen?
It was fallen through onto a tarp, and it's my understanding that Tom Sturdivant was going to keep that. How he did that, I don't know.
All right. In other words, you left that scene before the complete wrap up, as it were, had undertaken.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Dick, we're back at the photo. Anything you want to add or questions or whatever?
Yeah, so here's the main points, and then I'll ask if anyone has any questions. Here's what I wanted you guys to see. The process that they went through in sifting through this burn pit was the important takeaways for me, at least, are this. The sifting device is set up. There is a mesh that's on the sifting device that, so what Erdl says here, there are 1/4 inch openings. He takes his flathead shovel, like he talks about, and it's really important here, they do not dig down. He does not put the nose of the shovel in there, sticks his foot on it to dig. He doesn't need to do that. He, as he says, uses the shovel kind of like a dustpan. He puts the shovel, kind of flat down there and gets a little scoop full of ash, turns around and puts it onto the sifter. And from there, he has people that are with him that are using their gloved hands to, shake the sifter to allow things to fall through, but also use their hands as well. again, the purpose is to examine anything that's larger than 1/4 of an inch. And they're very specifically looking for really anything that could potentially be of evidentiary value, right? And Ertl says it well that we kind of chuckled at. He was often getting asked by people, is this bone? Is this important? His words to them were, if there's any question, put it in the box. And isn't it remarkable that that box ends up being this perfect, I guess, box full of bones that encompass all sorts of different parts of the body. So their guessing work was 100% accurate, apparently. But the important thing I just want everyone to grasp before I go into this next part here is that process. The ash gets put onto the sifter. There's 1/4 inch openings. Anything that's larger than 1/4 of an inch stays on top. That's it's a reasonable conclusion to come to, right?
So they've got
Agreed.
very fine material in that tarp.
Very fine material that would have fallen through to that tarp.
That's right.
Smaller than 1/8 of an inch.
Right. Now there is
That's tiny.
some testimony of I believe it's Sturdivant who says that things that were obviously not of evidentiary value, but they still wanted to just keep, that they would toss onto the tarp themselves. However, again, it's pretty clear that if they were even remotely questioning an object that they were looking at, they would put it in that box. So that's a really important takeaway from this portion that I want you guys to see, is how that was done and that part of the process. Because I'll tell you, as we go forward here, what's going to become really evident is that it's important for us to remember what should be in that tarp, and that's fine material. So any potential bones that did fall through there would be tiny fragments, and I mean tiny. Right?
Very small.
Oh yeah.
Very small. Correct. Very, very small.
Like the size of a rice grain, or bigger, or size of a pea? How big are we talking about? I mean, 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch is tiny.
1/8 of an
Tiny.
inch.
Yeah. Less than your fingernail.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very small, very fine bits.
Small.
So before I get into this next bit, I want to just ask a question, because, and to be honest, I couldn't have told you until I really dug in, but does anyone know where the state claims item BZ was found?
In the burn pit. In the burn pit. Yep.
Yeah, but there's some. Yeah, go ahead. There's some horse shit around that, big time.
Yeah.
So here's my question to people. It's found in the burn pit. That's what they're telling us. So on the 8th, when Ertl is using his shovel to put the ash onto the mesh there, based on what we know about item BZ, and I'll give you specifics in a minute, but do we think it would have stayed on top of the sifter?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Easily.
So item BZ should be in that white box that is given to...
That's right.
The infamous
Bennett.
picture of
The
the
Bennett.
white box of bones, right? BZ is in there.
Correct. It should be in there.
Well, what if I told you that item BZ isn't in that box?
I know it wasn't. I know it
totally believe you.
Inside the tarp.
It's in the tarp. Yeah.
So let me say that again. Item BZ was not found in that white box of bones.
That's right.
The one thing that they used to identify and confirm that Teresa Hallback was in that burn pit was not in that white box of bones.
That's right.
Item BZ, as we track it back, was found in the tarp, and I use that with quotations around it, in the tarp of the material that came from the burn pit. And so in order to believe that, you need to believe that item BZ, which we'll show, had to fall through a 1/4 inch mesh to the top.
which is no way that's going to happen. No way.
Well, how big is the item BZ?
Well,
One of the
Duke will show
biggest
you
things
soon.
in
Yes,
there,
that's
wasn't it?
the biggest. Yeah,
That's one of the biggest
the
bones.
biggest.
Yeah.
In fact,
Hey, Jack,
item BZ,
why
yeah,
don't we... Oh, sorry, Doc, go ahead.
I was going to say item BZ is just not one item, isn't it, Duke?
It's not. So, Jack, I'm going to skip ahead a little, and we'll kind of track back, but this is important here. Why don't you go to that slide that I have of tag 7926 item BZ. I believe it's the 9th slide that I have here.
It's coming. It's on screen now.
Could you kind of zoom into the image on the left there? So guys, remember, we've known this for a little while here, and we've always, at least myself, I've always wondered why is it that for item BZ they use this kind of cropped, rotated image of this little section, because again, Pratt's what he said is Cherie Culhane, and she said the same thing. From that large piece on the right there, she cut a little bit of tissue off of it and used that to analyze and confirm that Teresa Halbach is the one whose remains that those are, right?
Correct. That has always been my impression, that Culhane had sliced off a bit of muscle tissue from that bone. Oh boy, was I wrong. And everybody else.
So if we look on the right now, this is the uncropped version of item BZ. This picture, this whole picture, is item BZ. Doc, could you do me a favor and explain to everyone this black box? What is that inside that black box there?
Okay, so Duke had pointed this picture out to me a while back, and I sort of like, again, another jaw-dropping moment, and I thought, holy shit, that's muscle tissue. So what you see in that black box is not a piece of bone, but actually muscle tissue. Now, the picture that Duke has got up, this entire picture and the tissue, and right next to, on the left-hand side, there's additional muscle tissue. This is the muscle tissue that Culhane took a slice of to isolate genomic DNA to confirm 7 out of 15 alleles that belonged to Teresa Halbach when she compared the DNA from that muscle tissue to the pap smear. Also, the FBI used the muscle tissue sent to them by Eisenberg to do mitochondrial DNA analysis. So no bones have been tested, muscle tissue has. And Duke and I, we had a look at Eisenberg's report. We took the measurements, and I used the images. I put it into PowerPoint, made sure everything was in the proper scale, and I put the rulers, and it's exactly an exact match for what Eisenberg describes in her report. Guys, we have found item BZ. It's the muscle tissue, the piece of muscle tissue.
The question, I guess, is where the hell did it come from, right?
Well, yeah.
So in order to believe that this item came from Stephen's burn pit, one of two situations had to have happened. And these are the only two possible situations. Either this 2.4 inch by 1.2 inch piece of muscle tissue fell through a 1/4 inch mesh, or someone saw this on top of the mesh, picked it up, looked at it, and said, it's nothing, but we'll throw it on the tarp just in case anyone wants to examine it later on. Those are the only two options that you have. What's interesting to me is that item BZ, and Doc, you can speak to this more in depth, has always, whenever I've looked at it, it's always appeared quite different than any other bones that are found in that white box.
Oh, correct. If you have a look at the box of bones, and don't worry, guys, I'm going to be going through all of this again when I present the other part of my presentation in a couple of weeks' time. But what Juke is presenting here is simply mind-blowing, because a piece of tissue this size, have a look at it, it's about the same size as that piece of bone up on top. Now, if that piece of bone up on top remained in the filter up on the top, same should this piece of muscle tissue. It would not have gone through. It would have stayed on top. And you know what, Duke, guys? Does Bennett actually mention any muscle tissue in the box?
No, and that was going to be my question, Doc. Bennett would have recognized that right
No.
away.
No muscle tissue described in the box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
none.
So where did it come
Okay, I have
from?
a question, and okay.
No. Go ahead, Neverly.
Yeah, I like your question too. Where did it come from?
Well, it's a great question, and I think as we continue to examine it, maybe we could narrow down. But what is the most important, and what we can say for, at least for me, I'm comfortable saying for 100% fact, item BZ did not come from Stephen Avery's burn pit.
No.
I have a
If
question.
it did, it would have been in that white box. Go ahead.
What Kratz showed at trial was the other bone, correct?
Was the
one on
bone.
top.
Bone up on
Yeah,
top.
Karen Holbach's daughter,
Daughter's
tibia,
Yeah.
bone,
tibia.
shin. Yeah,
Tibia.
that was
The
my
tibia.
question, actually.
It actually does look like it has muscle tissue on it, does it not?
Nah, that's
What?
that's all charred. And put it this way, where do you think someone extracting genomic DNA is going to immediately go to? That bone,
Right?
big chunk of muscle tissue that's 2 inches big. You go for the
Yeah.
muscle tissue immediately. And
The measurements that she described do not describe that bone that Kratz showed.
no.
Correct?
No, and don't worry, I actually measured the bone as well. When I do my other presentation a couple of weeks' time, I've got all the measurements of all the items. And so what you're seeing now is the entire thing called item BZ. The whole lot is called item BZ. It came from a packet that had item BZ. So Kratz,
which was
and
7926.
Culhane fooled everyone by showing
Everyone
the
again.
cropped image, by showing the cropped image.
That
Which
was my
was-
question, boss. I'm sorry, Jack, before I forget it. So I remember him talking about the shin bone and blah, blah, all that, and showing the picture. So they manipulated this picture, basically.
Yes.
It's not the picture, it's the evidence. They manipulated the evidence that
That's
they
what
did
they're
not
showing for.
talk about the muscly thing.
No. They said it was
Oh,
some they said it
bastards.
was bone with some muscle tissue,
Muscle.
as in to
And-
imply the muscle tissue was attached to the bone. No, it
And
wasn't.
now it makes sense because he was so adamant about this shin bone, her
Yes.
daughter's tibia, that, again, paying attention to less important things, as always. 20
And-
seconds, sweat, and all that.
Well, I think the reason he used that photo is because he could say, this is Karen Halbach's daughter's tibia. The other one looks like a baked potato. Okay.
Yeah, but the problem is this, and Duke will back me up. No bones have been tested for genomic DNA.
Nope.
None.
And
I still
also
think
remember,
that bone looks like it has tissue on it, on the bottom part of it. You can see a separation there.
But you don't know without properly examining it, you don't know whether that's charred beyond the ability to extract genomic DNA. And you know what Pevito said of that muscle tissue, right, Duke? It was squishy. It
Yep.
was squishy, which meant
Okay.
Wow.
that it wasn't dehydrated. And that's why Culhane was able to extract DNA from it, because it was still squishy. He even described it as squishy.
And if you're not sure what it is, throw it in the box, right?
Exactly.
Correct. It should not. What Duke is saying, there's no way that that piece of muscle tissue goes through the filter.
No,
And
two
Bennett would
and
have
a
seen it.
half inches.
Correct.
But he also says they did throw some other things on the tarp that, you know, that were obviously bigger than that didn't go through the mesh. Didn't you say that, Duke?
You know, I did, and he Sturdivant mentions that once. However, what he was referring to wasn't anything that they thought was of evidentiary value. It was just things that they wanted to hang on to just in case, is how he essentially phrased it. What they
Correct.
consistently said was, as they looked at things, if they thought that it even could potentially have any sort of evidentiary value, they were going to put it in that box. And
In
I
the
think
box.
it's also, yeah, it's important to note too that in order to believe that they just threw this on the tarp thinking it was nothing, again, the way in which these bones and muscle tissue are different than the other bones is important as well. These are a
Yeah,
collective
and-
group. These were together.
And the other important thing is there was Jost there as well.
Yep. He helped.
And who saw who made the comment that their father had worked in a butcher shop? Was
Jost.
it
Yeah, who was the
Sturdivant
guy?
No, just said it, I
Sturdivant
think. Or maybe
or
Sipple.
Jost?
One of the two. Yeah.
One of them said it. One of them said it. There's no way they pick up a piece of burnt flesh and throw it on the tarp. That's
Especially because it's like
evidence.
one among all the bones, one muscle tissue, or maybe a smaller one. I think there was another one somewhere, a smaller one. But regardless, my question is, how would they know that what we see on the picture on the right-hand side is all item BZ? How would they know that all these like dusty and like tiny particles?
Well, that's an interesting point, but that I'll show you a picture later on that all comes from one packet labeled item BZ, which is
That's what I'm
interesting.
saying.
What?
Which is
Well,
interesting because how did they collect all of that and call it item BZ?
Yeah,
Right.
well,
And
see here.
that should be all separate.
doesn't this look a lot more burnt than the other bones?
That looks charred. And there was a comment about the muscle tissue. That muscle tissue is burnt. And when Culhane extracted the genomic DNA, the DNA was fragmented. It wasn't perfect. That's why only 7 alleles came up. The DNA was in very bad shape. But today, with advanced technology, you can easily isolate genomic and mitochondrial DNA and do testing. But the state, I think, gave away that muscle tissue. It's gone.
Wow.
I just wanted
There was
to add so people can understand that this is another little trick they did. So they would
Yes.
send a packet like 8675, and you would think that's one piece, but you're wrong. It's
not.
many
It's
pieces.
not.
It's not. It's not just one piece. So it gets if you don't really follow the property tag number and then what they did after, and things would get relabeled again. There would be things inside that packet that had their own number as well. If you don't follow that, you will get completely lost. So this is what you're seeing. All of this is set tag property tag 7926.
So Jack, can you go back one slide?
Oh, there's one more question. Sorry, Duke. Crockett Thompson in chat. Our friend Crockett Thompson says, did Ertl didn't mention BZ either, did he?
Never mentioned tissue once. No.
That's crazy.
And I've checked everywhere.
Wow.
He's never mentioned tissue once.
In
Not in
fact,
his
no one
report?
says,
Not in
no one
trial?
said tissue. No one said tissue. He said if it looks like a bone, put it in the box.
Doc, I
Was
found one
Ertl
person that said tissue. Throughout all reports and all the trials, I found one person that said tissue one time in that
Yes.
pit. Want to guess who said
Yep.
it? It was Kratz.
Jost?
Kratz?
Kratz.
Yes, he
Oh,
did.
God.
In
Kratz
fact,
asked
he
a
mentioned
question
it in
one
his
time.
book.
Says, yes. Well, in trial, he says it one time during a question to someone.
Oh, correct.
He says, "Did you find bones, teeth, and tissue?" But that's the only mention ever of tissue. No one that was at that pit mentions tissue one time.
And that's going to bring up a lot of complications now for the state, the presence of tissue.
Was Ertl present for all of the siftings back at the station or wherever they did it? Was he there for all of them?
There were a lot of people doing the sifting. Juke.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first show you real quick this report because it's going to tie everything as far as like from a logistics standpoint to show you where BZ came from. I'm just going to tie this knot real quick, and then the last point that I was going to give you talks a little bit more about the question that you just asked. So Jack, if you could zoom out so we can see the report on the right hand side here. And so here's what I want you guys to know, and I can provide more information to show you exactly how I figured this out. But when they finish their sifting, again, they've got a pile of dirt that's in this tarp, and what is Sturdivant's testimony is that he takes that tarp and he kind of bundles it up like you would a blanket almost, rings the edges up and ties it into a knot, and then he says he puts it into a trash bag to actually double bag it, and then tape that shut, and that's how it's then transported to Calumet. And so that tarp that was under that burn pit, that whole piece of evidence, that's tagged item 7923. And so what we have here is a report from the 10th, again, a day and a half later, of the examination of item 7923, that tarp that they took from the burn pit, which was the materials that had fallen through and had been thrown on there. Doc, would you mind reading this report?
You want me to read it?
I'd love that if you would.
Yeah. On Thursday, November the 10th, 2005, Special Agent Ronnie J. Pevito and Special Agent Thomas A. Sturdivant conducted an examination of an evidentiary material held at the Calumet County Sheriff's Department. The special agents conducted a detailed review of debris material that was removed from a burn pit in back of the Stephen Avery home by officials from the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory. This ash debris was identified under Calumet County property tag 7924. The evidentiary item was removed from a secured facility by Deputy Richard Reamer of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Deputy Reamer was present during the entire examination process. The two special agents conducted a detailed examination of the charred debris. The debris was placed on a table and examined in a well-illuminated area. This examination led to the identification of multiple pieces of what was suspected to be bone fragmentation. Several items may have been fragmentation of dental remains were also identified. Also discovered within the charred debris were two items suspected to be tissue material. At the conclusion of the examination of the debris, the materials recovered were turned over to Deputy Reamer. Deputy Reamer subsequently identified the respective materials as item 7924, unidentified material suspected to be bone. Item 7925, identified material charred, potential dental remains. Items 7926 and 7927, unidentified charred material suspected to be tissue. The remains of property tag 7923 were repackaged and replaced back in secure storage at the Calumet County Sheriff's Department by Deputy Reamer. The items separated from the charred material will be submitted for more comprehensive examination.
Thanks, Doc. So again, and please, guys, let me know if you're not following along here, but item 7923 is brought into be examined here on the 10th, right? And they do this often, and it's meant to confuse, and I don't want you guys to get distracted by it. This whole sentence here, which is right after the highlighted portion, this ash debris was identified under Calumet County property tag 7924. I believe this is done to just confuse. Done to confuse us in a way of, okay, are they examining 7924 or 7923? This is 7923 that they're examining. And this walks us through exactly what they found, or supposedly found from this tarp. They're saying that multiple pieces of bones had fallen through. They're saying dental remains had fallen through. And they're saying that tissue had fallen through. And this is where item BZ is first tagged. Item BZ is 7926.
So, but all of it should be smaller than a 1/4 inch at the.
It shouldn't have gone through. It shouldn't have gone through.
Yeah.
That's the issue. What the hell is it doing in the tarp in the first place?
Yep.
Right.
Well, somebody dropped it right there conveniently through their pant leg.
Yeah,
so
that's right. But there's actually a more sinister story to this.
Yes,
keep going,
indeed.
A very sinister story.
Here's the bigger picture, and this is where I talked about we can, and I've done my digging, and I'm happy to take the different avenues here to show you guys. But it's actually quite simple at the end of the day how they found those items in that tarp. And that's because that tarp, in all likelihood, was not the tarp that was from Stevens' burn pit. You have to remember, the burn pit wasn't the only place where Earl used his sifting equipment.
Mm-hmm.
His sifting equipment was used at multiple places. It was used at Mitchell's Quarry, or Mitchell's Materials. It was likely used at Cuss Road. And it was for sure used to examine all 5 burn barrels on November 7th and the morning of November 8th. John Ertl and his team set up the exact same equipment that I showed you, and by hand went through 5 burn barrels on November 7th and November 8th in the same manner, where he set items on top of the sifter. The stuff that fell through was collected up into a tarp, put back in the barrel. The stuff that remained on top went into boxes that were very similar in size, if not exactly the same, as the infamous picture of bones in that little white box.
Yes.
He has 4 or 5 boxes that are labeled the contents of barrel 1, contents of barrel 2. So we've gotten into actually quite a larger issue here, because the timing of when these bones, specifically the bones that are found in the Dassey or Yonda burn barrel, Doc, do you remember what day those bones are found? Those long
Well,
bones?
I know that Brutus hit on those burn barrels on November the 5th, and they weren't discovered, I think, till November the 10th or 11th. So they were discovered later, much later.
So those long bones that were found in Yonda burn barrel number 2, I believe.
Number 2.
Were found
Yep.
on November 12th.
12th. That's Pevito?
It is. And so my question would then be, from there, how did those long bones not get discovered when Ertl went through by hand that entire burn barrel and sifted it in the same way? That would have been
right.
his box of
That's
burn barrel number 2.
But wait, you need to throw in another burn barrel, right? That's the one at the deer camp where a scent dog hit.
And everybody remember, they put security on that on the deer camp.
Yes, they did.
So again, and this is where it starts to get muddy, is when you start to expand here. And so I really do think it's important that we hone in on one aspect at a time and really, without a shadow of a doubt, rule out the fact that item BZ, which was the only item that they were able to use to confirm that Teresa Hallbach was in Stevens burn pit, at least, again, in my own opinion, I can conclusively say that did not come from that burn pit. Otherwise, it would have been in that white box that we have seen a million times in pictures. And it's not in there. And that's because it wasn't in the burn pit.
No.
Wow, this is huge.
And if you notice, in the picture that Juke put up, the one that Krat showed, there was no measuring tape. And also you did not see the muscle tissue as a form of comparison. And what blew my mind is that the same image is in Culhane's PowerPoint presentation, which I'll present next week. The same image, no muscle tissue was shown. And Duke, remember the findings at Mickle's Quarry, the pink tissue and the blood that turned out to be non-human by Culhane, and Ertl dug it up.
It was the tissue that supposedly fooled 3 separate cadaver dogs. Right?
3 dogs.
They all hit.
3 cadaver dogs.
3 dogs hit on that area. And,
correct. 3.
They were all fooled, I guess. That wasn't human.
Correct. So
you got a choice. You can believe Culhane, or you can believe the dogs.
I believe the dogs, 100%.
And I would like just to add a comment, kind of, it's a side note, but remember how Culhane used that image of a skeleton? And when she
that was
Eisenberg. Yeah, Eisenberg. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, when she said, okay, shin bone, bones in the hand, and whatever. That was also an illusion that they found everything and how big those items were. We hear now, and what they were saying, they were tiny. We saw dust in that whole picture with the item BZ, what they call item BZ. So in the juror's mind, let's say that the average juror does not know the anatomy and how big the bones are and what to expect. That was also very deceiving, and I hold a grudge against that personally.
It was meant to show that the entire skeleton of Teresa Hallbach was in the burn pit, which is not true.
Which is not true, because 60% is missing.
60% is missing, correct.
Just for everyone there here in the audience, I've pulled up Eisenberg's PowerPoint presentation. This is the photo right there. And this is exactly what Duke is presenting.
Correct. Is that Cohane? Is that Cohane's
This is
presentation?
Cohane's PowerPoint presentation.
Cohane.
It's on the Foul Play website. I'll link it for
Yep,
anyone that wants it.
correct. Correct.
Jack,
Yeah.
Kelly McAlian is asking if you have a picture of the bones in the box.
Yeah, I'm sure I can find it. Yeah. Give me a minute.
Before anything was done with them, I don't think, and maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't think that there is a picture that we have before anything was done, because the picture that we had, I believe, is from Eisenberg. And before Eisenberg,
Correct.
there was Bennett, who in his report talks about how he put a few items in that plastic bag that you
Correct.
see inside the box. So,
Correct.
Unfortunately, and we do have Bennett's report, which is nice and detailed. But to answer your question, Kelly, no, the picture that we have is from Eisenberg, which is after it was examined by Bennett.
And there's no video of the sifting process.
Well, no.
So remember what BB said? Came in a box and left in a box. That could be exactly what happened.
And Doc, have you ever seen a picture of the, what's it called, articulated or?
Yes. That's the bone fragment that was found in the Manitowoc County gravel pit. That's part of the hip bone that's been sliced. That's the bone that Eisenberg refused to classify as human, and she didn't put it under a microscope to examine the microscopic structure to determine whether it was human or animal. And Jack 61 said, remember that case you were talking about, Jack 61? All they had to do was slice part of the bone, put it on a microscope and examine the morphological structure, and boom, you would have got your answer immediately.
Yeah, I saw that on Forensic File.
What about the bone that Bennett determined that it was a 25-year-old woman
the ilium
or older?
That's a different bone.
And do you see that in the box?
Yes. I think he may have placed it in the plastic bag. Is that right, Juke? Because they put I think they put the cranial bone fragments in the plastic bag, and I think they put the ilium bone in the plastic bag. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the tag number of that bone, Susan.
Okay, yeah. Did they show that at trial? Do you know that bone?
The ilium bone, I just think they just showed the box of bones. I'm not sure whether they showed the ilium bone. Do you remember?
Yeah, I can't off the top of my head remember exactly if they showed it. I know that they touched on it. The problem with the ilium bone is it only narrows things down for them to a gender and an age range, which would not have been sufficient.
And it's a range,
what they needed was
range.
Right. What you needed to do was identify those remains as Teresa's.
Correct. So the only thing you can say by looking at the bones, that the diagnostic bones are from an adult female. That's it. Nothing else. They don't identify Teresa Hallbach.
The box of bones is on screen now.
Yep.
And so, again, I'm happy to be corrected here. If someone can look at this box and find item BZ in there, I would love to be wrong about this. But item BZ is not in there. Again, we're talking about a 2.4 inch by 1.2 inch chunk of muscle tissue.
No.
No. It's not in there.
I'm convinced Bennett would have seen it. There's no doubt in my mind he would have seen it.
Immediately.
Absolutely.
Also, Eisenberg describes the remains as mostly very, very tiny, like the size of your little fingernail.
Yep.
All of these bones look, bigger to me. They look, an inch or two, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, because we don't have a scale, it's hard to determine the actual size of those bone fragments.
Yeah.
But you can tell that they've been very heavily burnt, And
Yeah.
in those plastic bags, I think they've got the cranial bone fragments, and I think the ilium bone as well. So he separated them into plastic bags.
Those are certainly not small fingernail size, though.
No,
No.
Yeah.
no. Remember, they found bone fragments in the Manitowoc County gravel pit. I think there were 3 debris piles, and
Yep.
that's when the bone number kept on increasing. This allegedly is from the sifting process. What Juke has eloquently pointed out is how in the hell can a muscle tissue that size go
Yeah.
through the sifter and end up on the tarp?
Yeah.
That doesn't
No
make
way.
any sense.
No way.
Yeah, that's the biggest point here to take away is that this picture that we're looking at right now
Yeah.
is from November, supposedly on November 8th, when Erdl, his team, Sturdivant, and Jost, probably Strauss too, even though they said she wasn't, she for sure had her hand in it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when they were sifting, right, what remained on top, and as they said in the testimony that we read, if you have any question, just throw it in that box. This is the box
Correct.
that we're talking about. And so again, they guessed with almost 100% accuracy, apparently.
I think we're.
However,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, however, although they guessed so well by getting so many different pieces and parts of the body in there, they somehow managed to lose Ed and BZ.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to modify BB saying added to the tarp, found in the tarp.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. But you know where this is leading to, right? It's the shell game. I think it's an elaborate shell game.
Yeah,
I do too.
it really is, and all of this throughout this whole however many years it's been since, we've always had a really hard time following the barrels, right? The way in which the barrels were handled and the confusion behind which is what, it's really hard to follow. However, if you realize, and if you're looking at pictures of those burn barrels, you'll see big tarps kind of
Yes.
crumpled up in each one of them.
Correct.
With tags that are held by a person over that tarp with their tag number. And all of a sudden you
Yes.
think to yourself how
Yeah.
easy it would have been to move one tarp from one to the other.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
And all of a sudden, all of this, we found this here and this there, starts to unravel a little bit.
Yeah, and
And
if I
they-
could just, sorry, Susan.
I was just going to say they did that that same type of sifting elsewhere, also in the Michael's quarry, and so those I'm sure were also in a tarp that looked exactly the same.
Exactly.
I was going to say that because questions have been asked, the bones weren't all burnt to the same degree. There was a lot of variation in the level of the burning event. Some bones were calcined, and others were charred. So it's hard to believe that Teresa Hallbuck was burnt in the professional crematorium. I don't believe that she was.
Mm-hmm. And Doc, could you imagine if, while Erdl or Sturdivant was on the stand, if Strang or Buting had thrown this picture that we see on the right-hand side up and said,
End the story.
when you were
End the
sifting,
story.
did you see this?
Yep.
Could you imagine?
No, that would have been the end of the game.
Or
And not on,
even the other one that they say is the tibia, that one too.
Any of them. Any
Yeah.
of that image.
yep. And
Yeah.
Cohane was very, very deceptive when she talked about the sampling of the muscle tissue. Very deceptive. She gave the impression that she actually had taken a slice from that bone. Sitting right next to that bone is a 2-inch chunk of squishy muscle tissue. Now,
I'm gonna tell you, Doc. I always thought, from the way she described it, that's exactly what she did.
Yep. And not only that, right? I've done lots of DNA preps. And one thing that we do, we might extract genomic DNA from a piece of muscle or from a piece of liver. So tissue is a rich source of genomic DNA. The last thing you want to do is to try and slice some muscle from a charred bone. When you've got a chunk of muscle tissue, that's what you primarily use to extract your genomic DNA. You don't go on a piece of bone. You need to have a specialized laboratory to extract DNA from bone, whereas from muscle, a high school student can do it. It's a standard procedure.
So that's, I mean, obviously, there's a lot there. That's kind of the bulk of what I wanted to present today, but it's going to open the door, and it should open the door for everyone to ask themselves, that's how Ertl sifted the burn pit. He also testifies and says, you know, I can give you the direct quote if I can find it, but he essentially says, I sifted those burn barrels the same way I did the burn pit.
Yes.
And then we get into some really big issues because if he sifted through 5 burn barrels on the 7th and the 8th, and they're not finding bones until the 12th, we've got a problem.
We've got a huge problem,
Yeah.
and it's the shell game. It's always been suspicious to me.
It's a shell
Always.
game.
Yep.
It's a shell game. And look, you know, the amazing thing is, and when I do the podcast coming up, I now bring in the cadaver dogs, right? I bring in the scent dogs. And with what Juke has just now presented, you're going to have to ask the question, if item BZ, if that muscle tissue was in the burn pit, cadaver dogs, maybe even scent dogs, would have made a beeline directly to that burn pit. Would you guys agree?
I think Bear
Oh,
would have done
yeah.
the same. I think Bear would have smelled it. I mean, he's a German Shepherd.
No question. No question.
And he had
Right?
access to the pit. Yep.
Direct access. And if he sees a nice, and I don't want to be disrespectful, if he sees a nice piece of muscle tissue cooked for him, what's he going to do?
He's going to eat it.
He's going to eat the bloody thing.
But, you know, out of all this, I mean, Duke, what a fantastic summary so far. I know we want to talk about it more. Dog, Neverly. But, I mean, to me, the question out of all this has to be asked, who the fuck put item or property tax 7926 in that tarp? Who did it? Where did it come from?
What date did they find BZ again?
So item BZ was found on November 10th by Sturdivant and Heavy Toes. Examination of the tarp. Yeah, of the examination of the tarp it was at the Calumet County Sheriff's Department the morning of November 10th.
Thank you.
Isn't that the same day, the 10th of November, when Pagel was all giddy about confirming on the phone call that they found body parts, blood, and everything else?
Blood on the key. I believe it was. Yeah. I believe it was the 10th, but I'll check.
And that was in the quarry. In the quarry, the same place where the medical examiner Kleiser went over there, who didn't come to Stevens burn pit to do the death certificate for Teresa. Oh no, he did it in the quarry.
And guess what day Brutus hit in the Manitowoc County gravel pit?
Do tell.
On the 10th. On the 10th.
Wow.
I think it's alert number 15. Is that right, Duke? Where Brutus went over to the Manitowoc County gravel pit with the slabs, the concrete slabs, and started digging and barking. So
I believe. I'm trying to look. I know we were just talking about it. I believe that was on the 10th at about. So yeah, the 10th at about 4:30 p.m. is when Brutus has his alert, that's right in the general vicinity of 8675, the pelvic bone.
Correct.
And it's November 10th at 5:55 p.m. that Hagel is on the phone with someone saying that they found bones and body parts.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Correct. So the interesting thing is, when we pick this up again next week, we're going to have a look at Julie Kramer, Brutus, the burn pit, and put it all together. And with what you've presented with the sifting, there's going to be some really hard questions being asked, right? So it's all coming together beautifully. And then finally, we're going to look at Bushman and Cuss Road. So it's all going to dovetail together. And while you're presenting, Juke, all you got to do is switch the tarps from one location to the other and say, oh, look what I found in Stephen's burn pit. But they never came from the burn pit at all. So it's a shell game. Juke.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Again, the confusion that was caused is intentional. And I'll tell you this, the more I dig into this case, the more I realize how, like him or not, Kratz is brilliant in the sense of how he went about things. If he were to use the intelligence that he has for good, he'd be one of the best guys that ever walked the face of the earth. Unfortunately, he's used this in a way that we know the type of person he is. He's a narcissist.
No doubt.
Who is completely not only willing, but motivated by getting things done in a way that will benefit himself. And so,
correct.
Their goal, which has been successful so far, was to distract, to deceive, and to put enough out there to where it's hard to track what's real and what's not.
To put in confusion.
Muddy the water.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And to answer Nerly's question, I put up, I'm not without playing the call. This is from a key call. Yeah, here it is right here. 11:10:05, 5:54 p.m. Jerry Poggle spreading word. Stephen's DNA confirmed to the drive key. More bones found. About a 4-minute call, so it's in the key calls list.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll probably play that when I do my section, the next podcast where we talk about Brutus hitting in the Manitowoc County gravel pit. This will be perfect to play after Jack 61.
Oh, excellent. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, Duke, do you have more to present, or you're done for this presentation?
The last thing that I just wanted to reemphasize was that in order to get to the conclusion that I worked myself to, there's a lot of detail in between. And I know that I'm someone who likes to understand the process of how things, one thing gets from one place to another. And so I am more than welcome to, whether it's Discord or wherever, in the comment section here, answer people's questions that they might have so that they can themselves get the clarity of how we can say for certain this got to, from point A to point B, or how I worked myself to this conclusion. So please feel free to ask those questions to me. I will be more than happy to respond. And again, I'm doing this with the information that they provided, not with any sort of speculation or just guesses on my end.
Correct.
Their information that I'm using.
Oh, 100% correct. And that if you've noticed, and I'm sure you have, that's exactly what we do on the Foul Play team. Open mic, we use their own recordings, and in the presentations that we've been doing up to date, we use their own documents, their own materials, their own photographs. But with your presentation and also your finding of that guy with the white bucket, it's opened up and also answered some very, very important questions which, we've been looking at these pictures for years, and boom, you pointed out the man with the bucket on the grassy burn pit. Bucket man. Done. Perfect.
Bucket man. Absolutely.
Bucket man.
And so last thing, I just wanted to say thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate you trusting me to to speak and present. It's been an honor, and like I said, just look forward to continuing to take the next step, and even if it's just a little bit uncover, the more we can do just those little bits, the more we're going to uncover overall, and eventually get ourselves to a point where we can either help Kathleen or just support her to get these guys out of jail where they do not belong to be right now.
Correct.
Well, I think we can definitively say now the story that actually happened at the Avery's garage with the dog, complete fucking fabrication.
Bullshit.
Complete. It's complete bullshit.
The important thing here is that through that video of Bear, and don't worry, I've got some more stuff that'll blow your mind too. That little video of Bear just walking passively out and passively back in, right in front of the two law enforcement officers taking the video, proves that Bear wasn't aggressive, wasn't jumping, wasn't barking. You listen to the entire video that these two guys do. Even though they're in Stephen Avery's garage, you never hear Bear bark once, right? It goes to show that even though Bear, with his chain, had direct access to them and never went near them, meant that Bear was not malicious, was not vicious at all. But what Juke discovered in that image is further damning evidence that Bear was not aggressive. And it now challenges Kaczarski, who wanted to pull out his revolver and shoot the dog, because that officer with a white bucket could well be Kaczarski, right? You could see the gentleman. It's hard, you can't see his face, but he's a very muscular type of guy wearing a dark outfit and a cap. That's exactly the same image you see next to Bear's kennel. And I put the head there for proportion. It's 100% match. Body-wise, it's a perfect fit. So it's remarkable now that we've got photographic and video evidence that Bear was not aggressive. And I believe it was a cover story perpetrated by Kaczarski and Kratz to suggest that Bear was aggressive, because these guys literally walked past the burn pit day after day. Right, Jack 61? Right,
That's
guys?
right. That's
no
right.
mention of the smell. No
There was
mention of
nothing
any
there.
fragrance.
There was nothing
And
there.
you saw the in situ pictures by Reese. There's no pile of bones. And remember, in the trial, Sturdivant said that he was asked, "You mean like in the center?" Yeah, like a pile of bones in the center of the ash. And it gets better, guys, because we're going to examine cremains intertwined in the wire. And you've seen images. There's nothing intertwined in the wires. So you saw what happened with the bucket, how the bucket just magically appeared. That's what happened to the bones. They magically appeared. Jack 61.
I mean, how much do you think that Shutter has kicked his own ass for asking for the dogs to be brought in Great Lakes Search and Rescue? Because they didn't hate Stephen Avery.
No. But isn't it important though that Jost was asked to write a report?
Yeah,
How
had to be
critical
brought.
is that?
Yeah, he had to be browbeat into it. He wasn't going to do shit. And
Nothing.
He's doing. Yeah, he still didn't write a report for what he did on the evening of the 7th. We don't have any idea. I mean, well, we have some idea, but
10 reports.
Oh, at least. And just so everyone knows,
at least,
I've asked for every incident report, every photo that he took as related to the Avery case. Whether I get it or not, we'll see.
Duke, do you have a comment?
I was just gonna say, Doc, is just another fun little tidbit. You know, we talk about the bones intertwined with the steel
Wire.
well, yeah, steel wire and everything. Do you think that they would have taken that wiring then on the 8th?
Well, it got bagged up, but it wasn't bagged up on the 8th, was it?
I
It was
think they left
bagged
it
up
out
by
there for a
30,
few
but
days. They
correct,
just left it for
correct,
someone else.
correct. But the other mind-blowing thing, of course, is they didn't take the hacksaw blade.
And they were looking for a blade. It's in one of
That's
the dishes.
unreal.
Why didn't they take that blade and examine it?
And they said they
Correct.
didn't take it. We left the hacksaw blade laying there.
Correct. And they all
Well,
left at
they've got a good reason. I mean, to be fair, I'm kind of scared of the dark too, so I don't blame them.
end of the dirt. Correct. And you know, the other damning thing is that bear was still there. So think about it. If you're a dog and they're taking out all the cremains from the burn pit, you would go crazy. You would go crazy because all the smell is being wafted up and you've got the muscle tissue. And no one said bear interfered with the sifting process. Juke.
So Doc, real quick, in looking at things and knowing the type of guy that Turtle is, I do believe that bear was likely moved probably just over to Barb's property with the other dogs. In between the time where that first bone was found and the crime lab gets there, just because I do feel Ertl would have mentioned bear being there. However,
Well-
it's interesting to note that Sturdivant says in his testimony that although he's not certain who moved Bear during that time, because he says he was moved after they found the bones, but before the crime lab gets there. He says, I'm not certain who did it. I believe the dog was removed by, could have been, the animal control officer.
That's right.
But
That's
isn't
right.
isn't it odd that Minion didn't mention that? She was still there. And she was so thorough in her reports.
Absolutely.
She was, and this is speculation on my end, but just to give you guys some insight in my thought process here, when he says could have been the animal control officer, I think to myself, okay, is there an officer nearby that he could have potentially labeled as animal control? And then I think, isn't Kucharski in Steven's trailer when this is happening?
Yes.
Hey, Kucharski, can you come move this dog so we can look through this area? I think that's what happened. Speculation, but that's where I went with it.
But Bear is there on the 7th. He's definitely there on the 7th. Because Trooper Reese took pictures of him. So he's there on the 7th. So he wasn't removed on the 6th. He was there on the 7th. And Barb came on the 8th to feed him. Whether they'd moved him or not, that I don't know.
Well, and Sturdivant says that Bear is there when he's what I like to refer to as stirring the bones with his twig. Bear is still there at that point.
Well, isn't this a problem now?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't this a problem now? Right? If they're stirring up all the bones and cremains, wouldn't Bear go crazy? Wouldn't he be violent? What the hell's going on? You have no mention of that at all. So I think, guys, we'll probably close it here unless you got more to present, Duke.
No.
Because we definitely want to invite you back on our panel to continue with what we're doing to add your wisdom and your comments. Because when we take up the chapter up again, we're going to go through a lot of the material. Again, we're going to look at the cadaver and the scent dogs. We're going to have a look at their tracks. And keep in mind what Duke discussed. We'll be re-examining item BZ again to show you the shenanigans that we used in the courtroom to fool people and the way Kratz used it as a form of sympathy by showing the tibia bone and his comment. Susan. Unbelievable. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. Well, look, guys.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah. Like I said, it goes to show you can work on a case for years and not pick up things. And when you have another set of eyes and ears that picks up something and then opens up a new rabbit hole where you can investigate, right, Jack 61, right, guys? It goes to show that collaboration is so important. It really, really is. Jack 61.
And I think that's why it's so important to go back and review the material we have, because there's so much, and there was so much manipulation done. We can see it right here. What was been presented tonight by you and Neverly and Duke. It's right there, and you can't get past that. And you can't. There's no justification for it. It was intentional. It was on purpose to complete the story. This sham that they pulled off on the court. It was theatrics.
Correct. It was a very elaborate shell game. And as I've always said, if you collect the evidence, you control the narrative. Right, Duke? If you collect the evidence, you can control the narrative.
And who gets the evidence firsthand? The state.
Yep,
Yep.
the state does. Correct. So again, a brilliant presentation there by Duke. We're so very fortunate to have you on the panel. And of course, you're welcome to come back anytime to add your comments and wisdom, because what you presented fits in and slots in perfectly with what we're doing. And I believe that this chapter here, the canine noses, that's the game changer. And what Duke discovered in that picture with the guy holding the bucket, man, oh man, that really is a game changer. Duke.
Well, I think it's interesting that a chapter about dogs who their only job is to do their job, right? They're not out here to manipulate us. They're not out here to deceive us. They have
Correct.
a job, and they're going to do it, and they're damn good at it. And so it's fascinating that this chapter has turned into what it is, because we're actually, for the first time, doing a deep dive into, in this case, animals that don't lie to us.
Correct. And I think it's very obvious and very disingenuous by the investigators how they didn't believe the dogs and weren't interested in the dogs, because they were telling a narrative that completely blew their story apart. But now, with that image of Bucket Man being literally within feet of Bear, that's a game changer, because it goes to show that the narrative presented is complete garbage. And wouldn't it be ironical if that person feeding Bear is Kaczarski himself, who said he put out a gun to shoot the dog? Jack 61.
Well, I mean, this goes back, this deception and this, and also how they used the dogs can be traced back to, you'll remember it, Doc, it was one of the first ones that you did on this chapter when, remember, Deadring and I can't remember who else went into the trailer with the dog. Yeah, and it was it Loof or Brutus? I can't remember. It was Brutus, wasn't it? Yeah, Brutus. He didn't alert at all in the bedroom, but they got to the bathroom laundry area and he gave an alert. Well, they scurry on out, 5 minutes later or whatever. Then what happens? Colburn, Link, and Remaker go back in at 7 o'clock, and they're collecting blood samples for 3 fucking hours. Why didn't they get the crime lab?
You got it.
They were there.
And you got it. And Erdl, the crime lab, was always called last.
That's right.
And what did Duke say? I got called over for my sifting equipment.
Yep.
Right? And Jost helps with the sifting. Sturdivant. and I think Strauss was there too. Where
Yeah,
the hell is the coroner? Where the hell is the forensic anthropologist? Nowhere.
well, that
Juke.
should have been. I'm sorry.
Oh,
That should have been. Yeah, I'm sorry, Doc. I gotta add this. Their first call, according to state law, if they find a suspected human remains, their first call is to the coroner. Period. That's state law.
Correct.
And they didn't. They didn't do it.
So what you see is deception from woe to go. And what Duke has uncovered is critical because it can show how biological material from another site can easily be transposed to the burn pit. And what's the thing that started off the trigger? Jost finding the first bone and Jost telling everyone, I think we better look at that burn pit. So he's the one that precipitated the search of the burn pit. Scary. Duke.
Yeah, and let's not forget that the call for Ertl sifting equipment, he gets called at 3 o'clock. And it can often get confused because there's different testimony of why there was that delay. That delay was because Sturtevant lied. He did not contact the state crime lab until 3 p.m. So there is an hour and a half of unknown time, or I guess unknown activity, an hour and a half that goes by until he calls Ertl in the crime lab. And Ertl,
Yep.
as he points out, he gets a call for his equipment, not his team. The only reason he goes up there is because he says, I had nothing else going on, so I went up with.
And Sturtevant at trial says that hour and a half, they did nothing in the burn pit.
Bullshit.
But they stayed right there. Yeah, bullshit. I call bullshit too.
I do too.
He
And
also
shenanigans.
said, he also
Correct.
said
And
that he believes Ertl was, they were busy because he was sifting through other burn barrels. And in fact,
yes.
we know that Ertl got done sifting those barrels that morning, right around between 10:30 and 11 a.m. And he signs into the salvage yard at about 11:45 a.m. So he's not only done with the barrels, he's on site.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it is a common theme that we see. He's always got, the crime lab is always called last or not at all. And I could imagine him being mega, mega pissed. But the person who got really pissed off was Pevito, right, guys? And that's what we're going to be doing in the oncoming episodes, because the burn pit was not examined once, twice, it was examined 3 times. So there's plenty of shenanigans going. Well, look, guys, we have been going on for quite a while. We've covered a hell of a lot of stuff. We've only just scratched the surface because we've got plenty of more stuff to present, but we don't want to rush it because there's a lot to take in and digest. So, guys, if you have enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, like, and share our podcast. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. But what I'd like to do is to quickly go around our panel, tell us how you're doing and what you thought of the podcast. And also people in chat, thank you so much for joining us. Today has been an eye-opening and jaw-dropping podcast. I haven't slept for a week. It just completely blew my mind. And not only that, imagine how many other golden nuggets we've missed. They're there. Incredible. All right, Jack 61, how are you going, good buddy? And how are things coming along?
Well, I'm doing pretty good, Doc. It's been a really busy last couple of weeks. I mean, it's like, man, it's been good, but well, just briefly, we've been covering on. Obviously, this has been fantastic, and also on the open mic, we're going back and listening to the miscellaneous 2022 calls that we got last year and re-listening some really interesting things. We've isolated last week. I haven't got the second one done yet. I did post the first one, that clip, and then I've got another one I've got ready, but I haven't had time to make a little clip out of it and get it posted. We're going to continue that tomorrow with these miscellaneous calls. And then I think the week after, we may take a break from the calls and head back into the depositions or see what we can get done there, because we're at the point in the depositions that it's really going to start getting interesting, because it's moving from August to September, and some real horse shit happens, as we know, in September and October. So tomorrow, 5 o'clock Central. Hope everyone can join us for the open mic. And fantastic job to you and Duke and Neverly. This mind blowing. This fantastic. And everybody out there, thanks for coming and participating and asking questions. And keep looking. Keep looking. Do your own research. And if you find something that you want presented, or you present it yourself, or you want to bring it to us, hey, that's fantastic. We're glad to do it if we can.
Correct. And thank you so much, Jack 61. And as Juke pointed out when he was doing his presentation, guys, around this panel, you got a lot of experience, right? And so if you're presenting something and it's obviously you could pick it apart, it's going to happen here because of fantastic experience, knowledge, and also people in chat with their vast knowledge. And the fact that Juke, the presentation done by Juke, can all be backed up and complements what we have been doing for years is perfect. It's not outrageous, outlandish. It complements everything that we've been talking about. And that's exactly the power of working together in a group. You got different eyes, different ears coming up with stuff. And all of a sudden, as Jack 61 pointed out, you hear a phone call and you go, oh my God, that's the connection to the case, as Neverly pointed out with Pagel, right? You look at the critical dates and it all makes perfect sense. All right, Andy B, how about yourself? How are you coming along? And did you enjoy the podcast, Andy B? Is Andy B still there? Yes.
Yes, sorry, I was trying to press the button. Yeah, I am going well, and I really enjoyed the podcast. Great work by Duke and you and Neverly as well. So some great stuff. I reckon it wouldn't surprise me if we found out that hour and a half they spent playing fetch with Burr. After they discovered the bones and got the stick
with the bones. Is that why they were 8 feet out?
Quite possibly, yes. But like such a great find with the bucket man on the grassy burn bit, and some of the confusing stuff about like kind of item BZ like being cleared up. Fantastic stuff. Great work. Love it.
It's unreal. Unbelievable. Thank you so much, Andy B.
No problem.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Next we have I don't recall. How are you coming along?
I'm doing well, and I'm grateful to you and Juke and Neverly for another mind-blowing episode, and shocking actually. And now I have Elton John's song going through my mind. I bet you can guess which one. Rocket Man.
Rocket Man, all right. Thank you so much, I don't recall. And next we have Susan. Susan, thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Duke. Fantastic presentation. It's so amazing. I mean, we're coming up on 8 years since Making a Murder was debuted, and still finding things. And yeah, that that's what it takes, is like you said, Doc, different eyes, different perceptions of everything, and you dig and you find stuff. And Duke, just fantastic. Your eye for those photographs and picking things out is just fantastic. So thank you so much. I had a great time tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much. And next we have Just Rhonda. Just Rhonda, how are you coming along?
you, Doc. I'm doing well. Like everyone else, and very impressed and very surprised by the information that we've learned tonight. Great job, Juke. I always want to be that person that finds that little golden nugget, and I never do. I think I find my golden nuggets in words more so than in photos. But great job, great presentation, and for Doc and Everly as well. You guys have all come together and done a really great job on this. And I'm just glad to be a part of this team. I don't do any of the research or any of the um, finding of evidence or anything, but I do support 100% what you guys are doing,
100%.
and I think it's great. So, yeah, I'm just glad that I was able to be here and listen to it and soak it all in. Thank you, guys.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jaswanda. And next we have Neverly. Neverly, how are you coming along?
Phew, I'm doing great, boss. Really, this was just mind blowing. And again, a fresh set of eyes willing to share and to participate and discuss. And as Susan says, it's amazing what we can discover, but if you can't put it in a narrative, it just becomes like another picture, another picture, another picture. And we can look at them all day long. But if you have the background of how many years now of research and to put it all together confidently and source it all, I think this is really powerful. And I'm just excited that we have a new friend, Juke 11, who wasn't selfish to keep it all to himself, but instead, he approached you, Dr. Silkman, and look what it happened. Look what transpired. Just amazing. And
Correct.
on top of everything, not that we're such enthusiasts and such fanatics that Stephen and Brandon are innocent, but we're all making it work. And again, using their words, using their evidence, and it's all there. So I'm really excited about that. And Duke, everybody's in love with you. And we got you a new nickname, which is Dr. Silkman Jr. It's a
Dr.
great
No.
compliment.
No. He's a standalone man.
I know.
I'm going to call him Eagle Eye.
Yeah.
Correct. But the good thing is that we can bounce off each other. The whole team can bounce off each other because
That's
we've
right.
been in this and in this game for a long period of time. We can bounce ideas and see where things fit, where they don't fit, and hence you're correct. It's okay to have factoids, but it's a different when you have a story, a narrative, right? A factoid on the case is good, but being able to put it together as a narrative and a cohesive story that makes sense and is robust, that's priceless. Thank you so much, Neverly.
How are you doing,
finally,
Doc? How are you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Me? No, we'll get Juke to take us out. Juke, how about yourself? How'd you find the podcast and everything so far?
It was a ripper, wasn't it?
It was a ripper.
Was a ripper.
No, everyone who has said something, I just, the kind words are much appreciated, and it means a lot to be able to come on to your guys' podcast that you all have worked so hard to get to the point that you're at. And, the research that I've done is really only I've been able to do it because of the work that you guys have put in over the past number of years. So the thanks to me is really just for paying attention to the hard work that you guys have done. And I want you to know, and I hope everyone who's listening to this knows, that my objective here has nothing to do with myself. If there are arguments or discrepancies in things that I'm presenting, I want to know them. My goal here is to go direction in which makes the most sense, but also can be supported by factual evidence.
Correct.
Perfect. Perfect.
And so I do not have an agenda here. My agenda is seek the truth. I feel like I'm on that path, but I'm open to anyone who might want to either challenge or provide me with some information that I am unaware of. And so just know that I'm very thankful to you guys, everyone here, for all the work that you've done. It's strange to me to almost, in a sense, be on the podcast because of how much I've listened to your guys' voices over the past year or so, especially the Kratz voice in trial. I was muted, but I was laughing for part of this just because I'm like, I can't believe I'm talking with Kratz right now.
I apologize.
No, I sincerely just want to thank you guys for allowing me to come on and share. And like I said, this is not about me. This is about us collectively as a group, as many people as we can, try to figure out what actually happened to Teresa Hallback, because I can promise you, with everything that I know and every fiber of my being, is that Stephen and Brenda did not kill Teresa Hallback. And she deserves justice that she's not yet received. And I'd like to provide that for her.
Amen.
100%.
Amen, Juke. Yeah.
Absolutely,
And you know
Juke.
what? Thank you for saying that, but it shows in your work and your presentation and your stance that this is not about an ego, that you want to be the number one superstar and whatnot. It totally shows what are your the reason why you're into diving deep into this case. So thank you for that.
Correct. And like I said, you're most welcome to come to any of our podcasts, Reading with the Crew, open mic, special presentations. I think your avenue that you search and deep dive into complements exactly our ethos, the same belief. And I think by continuing this togetherness, I reckon we can definitely crack the case. We're opening up avenues that no one ever saw before, and they're coming together now really, really well. And I think that's just fantastic. And again, guys, let me just say from all of us, this, and it happened so quick, right, Juke? We got together a couple of days ago. You want to be on a podcast? Boom. And here you are. You did your podcast. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. At Jack 61.
Just briefly, because Duke said something. It's really important to me, and because I've seen so much over the last, I started poking around socially with us, like I said, within 2 days of the series airing. It's not about me. It's not about anyone, because we're just regular people that found this passion to advocate for the truth, and it's not about foul play. It's about getting information to Kathleen that can help the case. If I could be just known as 001 or 00, hey, what about 007? I'd be James Bond. That's fine. I don't want anything from it other than to help, because I see a true, we rely on our justice system to do the right thing. And I know, like Duke said, from every fiber of my being, they told a story and had theater during trial. It's not what happened. It is not. Thank you, everyone. And yes, by the way, how are you doing, Doc?
How am I doing? Man, I've been on a high for a week, an absolute week. It's just the discussions that we've had in Discord and together, and re-looking at the documents and the materials. And you know what I find really impressive? Just the openness and willing to share. Right,
Yep.
Juke? Right, guys?
Absolutely.
Here's a picture. Here's a document. We share the discovery. What did you find? What did you find? We put it together, presented.
No
boom.
drama. No
No
drama,
drama.
no bullshit, nothing.
Nope.
Everyone and
Greatly appreciate it.
on this panel is on the same footing. Everyone gets a say. everyone gets a turn to present. And that's the way it should be, guys. No egos. Leave your egos at the door.
That's right.
And I think by doing this, man, look at the stuff we've uncovered, and there'll be more. Trust me, there'll be
Absolutely.
more. There'll be more. Jack 61, do you have any special announcement before we close the show?
I do. Probably here within the next 5 to 10 minutes, there's going to be a premiere. It is a tribute that was done for BB and a memorial. We hope everyone, it was done by a wonderful member, and it is a wonderful tribute in remembrance of BB. And it's about 20 minutes long, and it is so well done. And we're going to premiere it here as soon as we get finished up. It'll take me just a few minutes to get it loaded and make it public. I hope everyone watches it and appreciates all the effort that was done. So that's what's coming here just in the next few minutes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, look, guys, I still can't believe the stuff that we just covered today. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. And again, I really want to warm welcome to Juke for his wisdom, professionalism, and his ability to share the information with us. And it complements what we're doing beautifully. And we're definitely going to see more of Juke in future podcasts. And I love him to be part of the panel. And I'm sure everybody here will agree. He's been a fantastic acquisition for the Foul Play team, and the material he discovers and presents helps the boys and to find truth, justice. And that's awesome. So guys, please, if you've enjoyed the podcast, subscribe, like, put your DNA on the thumbs up button. I promise Cole Hain won't touch it. And put on the notification bell and share our podcast. The more people that can get to see the great work that's being done here, the better. So guys, we'll catch you soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. This has been a Foul Play production.